Chapter 977. Xiaohua's helplessness say, Sky Supreme. Even in the upper three realms, he be considered a hero. Of course, among the countless experts of the God realm, even Sky Supremes had to be careful. But this wasn't the God realm. This was just the three realms, one of the countless planes beneath the God realm. Who could? Who dared? Who had the strength to stop Black Dragon, a Sky Supreme? Although Yin Shang was a bit nervous, he didn't back down in the slightest. He locked his aura onto Black Dragon as well. Emperor Yi, I suggest that we stop fighting, said Yi Zichen. As their auras clashed, Yin Shang transmitted to Yi Zichen. If I'm not mistaken, Black Dragon is currently at least a Sky Supreme. Even if you and I join forces, it'll be difficult to gain anything from him. As for Gu Li, if I'm not mistaken, his true strength is around that of an Earth Supreme. He should be able to hold off the other three Sacred Beast clan heads on his own. Besides, they have formation experts like the zombie progenitors and Su Yun on their side. In terms of experts, we're already at an absolute disadvantage. If the three Sacred Lands had sent troops, they might have had a fighting chance. But they'd contacted their superiors, stopped the three Sacred Lands from sending reinforcements, and plunged them into the flames of war. In that case, the three realms were instantly at a disadvantage. It could be said that from the moment the battle began, it was no longer a fair contest. Yi Zichen's expression shifted, but as he hesitated, Yin Shang repeated what he'd just said to the other Sacred Beast clan heads. When they heard this, the other clan heads fell silent. They deserved to be hot-blooded. But under these circumstances, pointless sacrifices weren't worth it at all. Perhaps they wanted to avenge Lei Hu and wipe out the demons and vampires. But they couldn't risk hundreds of thousands of lives on a gamble they had no hope of winning. No, this couldn't even be considered a gamble. It was simply throwing eggs against a rock. I agree. After a brief moment of silence, Xiaohua, the head of the dragon race, chose to back down. What do you two think? Yin Shang transmitted to Zhuge Hong and Tu Biu, then saw them nod. While Yi Zichen was still mulling things over, Yin Shang and the Sacred Beast clan heads made their decisions. Yi Zichen didn't say anything. In fact, he probably thought so in his heart. Then it's settled. I'll buy time for everyone to retreat. Protect Emperor Yi and the others as they retreat. Activate the four-beast formation. Yin Shang said indifferently. His sleeves fluttered even though there was no wind. Heavenly Sovereign, I've been stuck in the Earth Sovereign realm for a long time. I'd like to experience the difference between a Heavenly Sovereign and an Earth Sovereign. That might make you feel despair. The Black Dragon laughed disdainfully. Is that so? Well, not once we try. His right foot stomped on the void, and the air beneath Yin Shang's feet instantly surged with waves of air. His body also turned into a beam of light under the counterforce of this air wave and attacked brazenly. Humph! The Black Dragon's eyes were filled with disdain. Countless bone spikes suddenly drilled out of his chest, interweaving into a net dong. Yin Shang's fist collided with the Black Dragon's bone spur, and a deafening boom rang out. Retreat! Zhuge Hong, Xiaohua, and the others looked at each other, nodded, then rushed back into Dragon City. The humans and beasts who'd been fighting the demons and vampires retreated as they fought. You want to run? Gu Li sneered when he saw the Sacred Beasts retreat. However, just as he was about to attack, a powerful kick slammed into his arm. Bang! Gu Li retreated a full 100 meters, then shook his sore arm and smiled at the people blocking his way. You stayed behind to deal with me. You really are a good opponent. Yi Zichen, are you ready to return the Emperor Star's destiny to me? If you want it, come and take it. Yi Zichen simply smiled calmly, then transmitted to the Sacred Beast clan heads who wanted to rush over to help. Don't worry about me. Hurry up and leave. But the Dragon God had once told them that if they wanted to turn the tables, Yi Zichen would be the most important factor. They really couldn't let Yi Zichen go. However, as they hesitated, Yi Zichen roared at them, his eyes bloodshot. Then, without any hesitation, he charged into battle with Gu Li. He gnashed his teeth as he watched Black Dragon and Gu Li exchange blows with Gu Li. Retreat. Boom. Boom. In order to assist the humans and beasts in their retreat, Zhuge Hong transformed into her vermilion bird form, constantly spitting out wisps of natal true flames to seal off all of the demon and blood tribes' escape routes. Xiahua landed outside Dragon City. Standing there were the clansmen of the 4 sacred beast clans, who'd set up the 4 beast formation. "Father, has it come to this?" asked Xiangda, Xiahua's eldest son and the current head of the dragon race, with a frown. Although they hadn't taken part in the battle, they could see the situation from outside. The situation didn't look good. Xiahua nodded dejectedly as he looked at the sacred race clansmen outside Dragon City. "I'm sorry, but we lost." As he said this, Xiahua clenched his fists tightly and lowered his head. He didn't dare look directly at the sacred beast clansmen. When he said this, it meant that the people before him had to sacrifice themselves for the sake of their clans. The demons are too strong, especially now that we're no longer bound by the laws. Black Dragon, as a Sky Supreme, has absolute control over us. I'm not afraid of death, but I can't let hundreds of thousands or even millions of my clansmen die with me. We have no choice but to retreat and wait for the master of the laws to arrive. When that happens, we might have a chance to turn the tables. During this time, we need you to buy us that time. As soon as he finished speaking, Xiahua reached out and pulled Xia Kiki into his arms. His turbid eyes became crystal clear at this moment. "Kiki, I'm useless. I'm sorry. She was his most beloved granddaughter, yet he'd had to make her the eye of the formation." Tears fell uncontrollably from her eyes. Kiki sensed Xiahua's trembling, but she looked up at him and smiled. "Grandpa, don't blame yourself. I don't blame you at all. Hee, Grandpa, don't cry anymore. You're already so old, but you're still crying like a child. Look at me, I don't even cry anymore." She wiped away the tears at the corners of Xiahua's eyes. Xiangda couldn't help but secretly wipe away his tears as well. When Kiki was born, he'd been proud of her true dragon bloodline. But now, he'd rather Xia Kiki be an ordinary sky dragon. That way, she wouldn't have to. Chapter 978. Chapter 978. Promise us a favor. The other sacred beast clansmen beneath Dragon City couldn't help but reveal pained expressions. Most of them were already past middle age. Although it might be unfair for them, people in their prime, to walk this path, given the circumstances, it was indeed their duty. For the sake of their clans, they could be fearless. But Xia Kiki was different. She was at the age of a flower. There were too many things she'd yet to experience, too many worlds she'd yet to see. Tears streamed down Xiahua's face as he hugged her, but Xia Kiki simply smiled calmly. "Grandpa, don't cry anymore, okay?" She tried her best to use a reassuring smile to comfort the old man in front of her. Soon after, she struggled free from his embrace, a tranquil smile on her exquisite face. "We don't have much time. Let's begin." "Wait, our White Tiger clan has something to say." The speaker was a middle-aged man with a white tiger tattoo on his arm. He took a step forward, his gaze fixed on Xiahua of the Dragon Clan. "Clan Head Dragon, there's no need to feel apologetic on our behalf. When we decided to become the foundation of the 4 Beast formation, we were already prepared to die. Now that we're faced with this outcome, we're all calm." The other sacred beast clansmen nodded. They weren't forced to come here. They'd all come of their own free will. Before they came, the sacred beast clan head had already told them the consequences. Since they decided to come here, even after learning of the consequences, it meant they'd long since made up their minds to sacrifice themselves for their clans. "But before we set up the formation, we White Tigers, or rather the entire White Tiger clan, would like to ask Clan Head Xia to agree to one of our requests." The White Tiger clansman's face was filled with unswerving determination. Xiahua nodded. "Please speak." "To avenge our clan head." He didn't grit his teeth or show any signs of hysteria. Instead, he was extremely calm when he said those words. However, his blood-red eyes made everyone present feel the obsession in his heart. He wasn't the only one. The other White Tigers felt the same way. When they saw the death of their patriarch, their hearts burned with a monstrous rage. By coming here, they could already be considered abandoned pawns in defeat. However, They still wanted to burn their own souls to secure 100 years of peace for the Beast region. After 100 years, he found a glimmer of hope to avenge the clan leader and let his soul rest in peace. "I'll try." Xiaohua's reply lacked much confidence. After witnessing the all-powerful Black Dragon, he really couldn't muster up the arrogance to look down on the entire world. "Clan leader Xia, we would like to receive an affirmative answer. Otherwise, even if we die, we won't be able to rest in peace." "Yes, clan leader Xia, please give us a definite answer." "Clan leader Xia, clan leader Xia." Almost everyone standing there was calling out to Xiaohua. They could feel the unwillingness in the hearts of their clansmen, as well as their deep obsession. "All right, in 100 years, the Beast region will definitely trample over the demons and blood races. We'll take back the three." Boom! At this moment, a loud bang caused everyone to involuntarily raise their heads. Even if you're a peak Earth Supreme, you're still just an Earth Supreme. Even if I'm only an early-stage Sky Supreme, I'm still a Sky Supreme. How can you possibly bridge the gap between heaven and earth? Black Dragon, covered in bony spikes, laughed arrogantly. Everyone watched as Yin Shang, his entire body glowing with light, plummeted to the ground like a comet. Cough! He crashed to the ground with a bang. Yin Shang clutched his chest with his right hand. Wisps of purple smoke slowly rose from his chest, corroding the skin on his chest. His jaw was tightly clenched, and blood dripped from his mouth. His eyes were filled with unwillingness as he stared fixedly at Black Dragon above him. He floated down. Black Dragon, shrouded in purple mist, looked down at Yin Shang with a ferocious glint in his eyes. "Not a bad look, but I don't like it." Thud! Black Dragon stomped viciously on Yin Shang's chest. Bone spikes sprouted from his ankle, all of them stabbing into Yin Shang's chest. "Humph!" Yin Shang snorted angrily as Black Dragon stepped on him. His pale face was covered in sweat. Beads of sweat rolled down his cheeks, and his temples were completely soaked in sweat. "You should be a member of the God race, right? Otherwise, there's no way you could have reached the level of a Supreme." Black Dragon looked at Yin Shang questioningly, but all he got in return was a disdainful roll of his eyes. "Oh!" Black Dragon twisted his foot on Yin Shang's chest, and the sharp bone spikes instantly sliced through his chest. Blood gushed from the wound. His eyes rolled back into the back of his head, and his body twitched uncontrollably. "You're the only opponent I'm interested in, but that's all you've got." Black Dragon retracted the bone spikes from his ankle, then narrowed his eyes at Yin Shang, who was twitching uncontrollably on the ground. "Seeing as you've given me so much fun, I'll give you a quick death." A bone spike sprouted from his palm. The sharp bone spikes glinted with a frightening cold light as he stabbed towards Yin Shang's head. Ding! Yi Zichen blocked the bone spike with his bloody blade, then braced himself against the ground to protect Yin Shang. Yi Zichen. When he saw who it was, Black Dragon's expression shifted. Yi Zichen should be fighting Gu Li right now. Could it be that he'd finished off Gu Li in such a short time? However, he quickly stopped thinking about it. Who cared if he'd finished off Gu Li or not? Since he'd dared come here, he'd come to die. His expression shifted. Crack! In an instant, the bone spike shattered Black Dragon's bloody blade, then pierced right through his chest. Ugh! Yin Shang coughed up blood uncontrollably. Then he saw Yi Zichen turn around with a ferocious expression and grabbed the bone spike with his right hand. Bang! He broke it. Clang! At the same time, the piercing cry of a vermilion bird filled the air. Black Dragon noticed a flash of fire from the corner of his left eye and took 2 steps back. Yi Zichen took advantage of this opportunity to carry Yin Shang a full 100 meters away. Yin Shang was still twitching uncontrollably in Yi Zichen's arms. Blood gushed from his mouth like it was free, along with a few shattered organs. Yin Shang, Yin Shang. Yi Zichen still had the bone spike in his chest, but he made no move to deal with it. Instead, he called out Yin Shang's name over and over again. Emperor Yi, take advantage of this and hurry back to Dragon City. Zhuge Hong, now in her true form, landed in front of Yi Zichen. Her fiery feathers radiated scorching energy. Little vermilion bird, how dare you act so fiercely in front of me? Black dragon, covered in bone spikes, laughed disdainfully. However, a second later, he felt a wave of heat wash over him, as if it could burn the heavens and the earth. The flames surrounding the vermilion bird's body changed from fiery red to reddish gold. Chapter 979. The Black Tortoise Became a Wall. Chapter 979. Nirvana of the vermilion bird and the black tortoise wall flames burned the heavens and the earth. Zhuge Hong transformed from the vermilion bird into a flaming woman. The moment she ignited the flames, the ground beneath her feet withered to the point that cracks began to appear. Even ancient trees 100 meters away were scorched by the waves of heat and turned to ash. Nirvana of the vermilion bird's flames could burn all things in the world. Nirvana of the vermilion bird? That seems a little different. After retreating to a safe distance, Black Dragon rubbed his chin and narrowed his eyes. The nirvana of the vermilion bird made him feel some pressure, but wasn't this better? Victory without any resistance was so boring. Sizzle. At that moment, the flames covering Zhuge Hong's body grew several dozen meters taller. Blazing with golden flames, she was like a sun that had fallen from the heavens to the mortal realm. Mountains melted and rivers dried up. Everything within 10,000 kilometers was steamed. Bang, bang, bang. Amidst the rising waves of heat, demons, blood clansmen, and humans fell to the ground one after another, shriveled corpses after another. The oncoming waves of heat forced Black Dragon to retreat involuntarily. His solemn expression lingered on his face for a long time. Yi Zichen, who was 100 meters away, was caught off guard. The waves of heat practically dried up all the blood in his body. Suddenly, a black-robed man appeared in front of him. He pushed his palms forward, and a wave of earth-yellow light repelled the waves of heat. Emperor Yi, leave this to us. Hurry up and head deeper into Dragon City. Clan Head Tuesday. Yi Zichen gazed intently at the skinny man's back. Tu Biu gazed intently at the vermilion bird in the form of a flaming woman. The vermilion bird's nirvana incinerates the heavens and the earth. In her current state, she has no way of controlling her flames. However, unrestrained flames are also the strongest of flames. Under her flames, all things in the world will be incinerated into nothingness. Incinerates the heavens and the earth. The phoenix's nirvana is reborn from the ashes. The vermilion bird's nirvana incinerates the heavens and the earth. Right now, she's using herself as a cauldron to refine all things in the world. Doesn't that mean? It's not as serious as you think. Tu Biu shook his head. We're only doing this to buy time for the activation of the 4-beast array. Under Zhuge Hong's nirvana, even a heavenly sovereign wouldn't dare to stay under the heat of her flames for long. As for the warriors of the beast region and the humans who have yet to retreat, I'll cover them. From Tu Biu's gaze, Yi Zichen read what he didn't say. Zhuge Hong, who had undergone nirvana, would die, and he, who had protected the humans and beasts in their retreat, would also die here. Once the 4-beast formation is activated, Dragon City will be invincible. 100 years is the last time we can give you. At that time, the future of the 3 realms will be in your hands. The flames on the vermilion bird's body rose by several dozen feet, and the color of the flames had also become pure gold. Under the shroud of the golden light, heaven and earth burned. No one noticed the attack, and everyone, regardless of whether they were humans, demons, beasts, or vampires, was reduced to desiccated corpses. They fell to the ground, turned to ash, and dissipated into the air. Tu Biu stood in front of Yi Zichen, supporting his barrier. When he saw the color of Zhuge Hong's flames change, he lowered his head and clenched the jade pendant in his hand. He brought it to his lips and kissed it, then tossed it to Yi Zichen. Emperor Yi, please give this jade pendant to my wife. Tell her, I love her. Boom! The earth trembled. A 1,000-foot-wide ravine appeared on the dried land, and the crust also changed at this moment. The melting mountains suddenly disappeared from everyone's sight, and the dried-up river also disappeared from its previous position. Whoa! Tubiyu let out a low, bugle-like cry. Then he transformed into a black tortoise, and the shell on his back separated from his body. The shells were arranged in a line in the air. Not long after, the cracked shells were filled with words that were difficult to understand. The characters instantly flashed with dazzling light, and an earthen yellow protective barrier spread out from the characters. Enveloped. A package. Earthen yellow balls of light appeared around the humans and beasts, who'd been bitterly resisting the heat of the vermilion bird's flames. The torturous heat gradually disappeared. Family head Juga, brother to Yi Zichen, gnashed his teeth as he watched them leave. Then he clenched his fists, picked up Yin Shang, and rushed toward Dragon City. The soldiers on the battlefield retreated to the sound of the horn. As for the blood zombies and demons, they'd long since had no time to fend for themselves. Little sister Juga, brother to beneath Dragon City, Xiaohua's eyes nearly popped out of their sockets when he saw this. He clenched his fists and gritted his teeth to prevent tears from flowing. They'd planned this all along. It was all to buy them enough time to set up the four-beast formation. The Black Tortoise and Vermilion Bird clansmen watched as their clan heads sacrificed themselves for their clansmen. Their eyes were bloodshot. However, they suppressed the emotions in their hearts and secretly clenched their fists. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Above Dragon City, a constant stream of human and beast warriors flew past. Xiaohua's murky eyes focused on the sky. His spiritual sense tendrils extended outwards. It was almost time. Everyone. Xiaohua retracted his gaze from the void and looked at the sacred race clansmen with a dignified expression. I'll be counting on you. Every sacred race clansman present knew exactly what this please meant. They nodded without saying a word. Their expressions were filled with solemnity and determination. They rose into the air. 20 pure-blooded sacred race clansmen from each race landed in the sky and formed a circle. In the center of the circle was one clansman from each race, each standing in the direction of the sacred race clansman. The Vermilion Bird, Black Tortoise, Azure Dragon, and White Tiger. The images of the four sacred beasts shimmered beneath their feet. At the same time, the other 20 clansmen standing around them raised their hands high and kowtowed devoutly to the four in the center. Or rather, they were kowtowing to the images of their sacred ancestors. They established a connection. Golden threads shot out of the sacred ancestors' tattoo and wrapped themselves around the arms of their clansmen. Soon after, the clansmen all revealed pained expressions. Their essence blood was channeled into the pattern using the line as a medium. The clansmen standing on the images were the ones with the purest bloodlines. Holy, untainted light gradually appeared around their bodies. In an instant, bloody light shot into the sky. Chapter 980. The invincible four beasts formation 10,000 kilometers away. Even though they'd retreated this far, they could still feel the waves of heat wash over them. Only a few tens of thousands of demon soldiers remained. The slow-moving blood zombies had been completely wiped out. Only Hanba, Ho Qing, and Jiangchen had managed to escape the flames. The Vermilion Bird really gave us a huge gift. Black Dragon had already retracted his bone spurs. However, the remnants of his sky supreme aura made everyone around him hold their breaths. Especially Guli. They didn't know if he'd be able to descend to the lower realms. Besides, his relationship with Black Dragon wasn't as harmonious as they'd imagined. Of everyone present, his situation was the most dangerous. He glanced at Su Yiyun from time to time. Guli was rather curious. What could Su Yiyun possibly do to kill Black Dragon? The Vermilion Bird's nirvana did indeed greatly damage our demon race's strength, but she and the Black Tortoise disappeared from this world forever. Su Yiyun smiled calmly. Even though he was facing a Sky Supreme, Black Dragon, he was still as calm as ever. What we need to worry about right now is actually over there. As he spoke, they saw Su Yiyun point at the blood-red light emanating from Dragon City. They followed his finger, but they were too far away and couldn't see very clearly. All they could faintly make out was someone kneeling in the air. Brother Su, that's... Black Dragon arched his brows at Su Yiyun in confusion. The four beast formation. As a formation grandmaster, Sui Yun was naturally well-versed in the myriad formations of heaven and earth. The four beasts formation was naturally within his scope of knowledge. It sounds like a type of spiritual formation, but I wonder what it does. In truth, Black Dragon knew a thing or two about spiritual formations. Although he wasn't as skilled as Sui Yun, he'd read about them in ancient texts. However, he had no recollection of the four beasts formation. Sui Yun looked at the blood-red light and chuckled. It's normal that you don't know. The four beasts formation is a formation passed down through the four sacred beast clans. Only the sacred ancestors of the four sacred beast clans joined forces to set it up during the war of gods and demons. Its effect is to transform the area enveloped by the formation into an absolutely invincible space. He frowned deeply. An absolutely invincible space. At this point, the demons had already suffered great losses. If they didn't take over the beast region, their losses would be too severe. Brother Su, you're talking about absolute invincibility. Absolutely invincible. Once this formation is activated, even if a god emperor descended to the lower realms, he wouldn't be able to break through this barrier. That's absolutely right. We can't let them succeed. Black Dragon's face was filled with anxiety. He frowned and said, if they succeed, doesn't that mean we won't be able to do anything to them? In order to get to this point, the demon race has paid too much. I can't tolerate it, and I can't let them hide under my eyes. This seat must pull out this thorn. Flatten the three realms. Even if the demon race flattened the three holy lands, as long as Dragon City remained, it didn't mean that the three realms would be unified. They would always be like a thorn, making the demons worry about their desperate counterattack at all times. More importantly, they could take the initiative to attack, but their own people couldn't do anything to them. What? Do you want to go break their formation right now? Snorted Suyin. The vermilion bird's nirvana is up ahead, refining everything in the world. The black tortoise has transformed into a wall and enveloped Dragon City. Why are they doing this? It's to buy enough time to set up the four beast formation. If you could endure the heat of the vermilion bird's nirvana, you wouldn't have retreated here, would you? You can't break this formation. Then am I supposed to just watch them set it up? What are you panicking for? Snorted Sui Yun. The vermilion bird's nirvana has indeed bought them time, but it's far from enough to set up the four beast formation. After tens of thousands of generations, even the purest sacred beast clansmen aren't as pure as the sacred ancestors. This four beast formation isn't that easy to set up. Roar, 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 oh. The four illusory sacred ancestors let out cries and howls. The clansmen who'd been supplying the sacred ancestors with their essence blood all paled, their expressions incomparably savage. However, the four people inside the formation weren't much better off. Their bodies were constantly being infused with energy. Energy filled their bodies. All they felt was like they were about to explode. Within Dragon City, fortunately, the dragon race's territory was vast enough. Even if everyone in the beast region gathered here, it wouldn't be too crowded. The injured were all sent away for treatment. Those with light injuries or no injuries could only stare at the bloody light above their heads. Creak. Yizichin gently pushed open a wooden door. Sitting inside was a graceful, gorgeous woman. She was currently kneeling before the statue of the black tortoise sacred ancestor, muttering pious prayers over and over. The instant the door opened, the kneeling woman suddenly turned around. You are. The woman's eyes flashed with confusion. As far as she could remember, she'd never seen the youth in her room before. I am Yi Zichin, said the youth. So, it's Emperor Yi, said the woman, arched her brows. You must be Tu Biyu's wife, said Yi Zichin. The woman nodded, then watched as Yi Zichin took out a jade pendant and solemnly placed it in her hands. Brother Tu told me to give you this pendant. He also told me to tell you that he loved you. Why didn't little you give me the pendant herself? The woman clutched the pendant, her eyes filled with anticipation as she looked at Yi Zichin. In the face of her gaze, Yi Zichin practically didn't dare meet her gaze. Brother Tu, he died in battle. Thud. The jade pendant slipped from her hands and fell to the ground. The woman seemed to have lost her soul. She stared blankly ahead. Whoosh. In the blink of an eye, her long, black hair turned a deathly gray. My condolences. Yi Zichen bowed deeply to the woman, then left the room. The instant he closed the door, he heard heart-wrenching, lung-splitting wails. Creak. Yi Zichen clenched his fists. He wanted to take out a cigarette to calm his nerves, but the bloody light above his head caught his attention. Next, he looked up into the sky. Is this the 4B's formation they were talking about? Just as he was examining the 4B's formation, he saw that Xia Kiki was also in it. Kiki. Chapter 981. Su Luer's divine tribulation. Yi Zichen was furious. He never would have guessed that Xia Kiki was part of the 4B's formation. What infuriated him even more was that no one had ever told him about it. If he hadn't seen it now, who knew how much longer they'd have hidden it from him? The spiritual energy he released sent everyone flying. He stomped hard on the ground, then shot towards the 4B's formation like an arrow loose from a bow. Bang! A dragon claw viciously smacked him to the ground. Then, he saw Xia Hua hurrying over. Emperor Yi. He was the one who'd smacked Yi Zichen with his claw. Ever since Yi Zichen entered Dragon City, Xia Hua had been watching from the shadows. He'd been afraid that this would happen. Yi Zichen wiped the corners of his mouth, then glared at Xia Hua with bloodshot eyes. Xia Hua, you've really kept things from me. I hope Emperor Yi can understand, sighed Xia Hua, then lowered his head. I didn't hide it on purpose. You didn't? Yi Zichen licked his lips, then pointed at Xia Kiki and shouted, That's your granddaughter, Xia Hua. I never would have guessed that you dragons were so heartless. Get Kiki out of the 4B's formation right now. I can't, said Xia Hua in a low voice. All right, then I'll save Kiki myself. Without another word, Yi Zichen glared viciously at Xia Hua, then shot towards the 4B's formation. With a boom, Xia Hua transformed into an azure dragon and swung his tail viciously at Yi Zichen, smashing him into the ground. Emperor Yi, stop messing around, roared Xia Hua, who'd returned to human form. Then his eyes sparkled. If I could take her place, do you think I'd want to sacrifice Kiki? Do you think I want to? Setting up the 4B's formation requires the purest bloodline of the sacred ones. The purest bloodline of the dragon race is the golden dragon. I searched the entire clan, but there were only 6 people. As he watched Yi Zichen hit the ground, Xia Hua's wizened face flashed with determination. I can't bear to part with my granddaughter, but for the future of our race, she must go. Old Zhuge, Old Lei, and Old Tu all perished. Right now, I'm the only head of the sacred beast region. I have to give the beast region and the human race one last chance to turn the tables. I have to be reborn for 100 years, reclaim the 3 realms, and avenge them. Emperor Yi, it's fine if you want to break this formation, but once you do, we'll have no hope at all. If you insist on going your own way, if you want all the clans of the beast region to die with you, then go ahead and destroy it. The surrounding people all looked towards them. The muscles on Yi Zichen's face twitched as he stared at Xia Kiki, who was standing in the 4B's formation with a pained expression. Kiki, can you hear me? Yi Zichen stood up from the ground and stared at Xia Kiki, who was in the 4B's formation. Tell me, was this your own decision? If not, then tell me right now. I don't care about the lives of the 3 realms or the future. I'll immediately break the formation and rescue you. As long as you tell me, was it your own decision? The people of the 3 realms? What future of all races? It was all bullshit. If he couldn't even save his own woman at a time like this, could he even be called a man? So long as Xia Kiki shook her head at him, he wouldn't have to answer. He'd immediately break the formation. Yi Zichen vaguely gathered his spiritual energy. Xia Hua, who was off in the distance, sensed it and did the same. Next, he saw Xia Kiki, who was in unbearable pain, force a peaceful smile onto her face. I did this willingly, big brother Zichen. Don't blame me, I really did this willingly. He clenched his fist, unclenched his fist, clenched his fist again, unclenched his fist again. After repeating this countless times, Yi Zichen looked Xia Kiki in the eye, then suddenly turned his head. When he saw Yi Zichen's decision, Xiahua let out a long sigh. However, he still felt an inexplicable sense of loss. For the sake of his clan's future, he wouldn't break the four-beast formation. But if he were selfish, he didn't want to see Xia Kiki sacrifice herself either. Demons, Gu Li, sooner or later, I'll destroy you. Yi Zichen clenched his fists tightly, then left without another word. He was afraid that if he stayed any longer, he really would lose control of his rationality and break the four-beast formation to save Xia Kiki. Xia Kiki, who was within the formation, felt her heart ache when she saw Yi Zichen's appearance. She'd let him down. However, she really didn't want Yi Zichen to bear the infamy of the entire world for her sake. Rumble. At that moment, several claps of thunder resounded through the skies above Dragon City. Everyone in Dragon City was startled by the thunderclap. Then, they raised their heads and saw a thick layer of thunderclouds had appeared in the sky, and one could vaguely see purplish-red lightning shuttling through the thunderclouds. Crackle! Another bolt of lightning fell. The appearance of this bolt of lightning caused everyone's eyes to flash with a purple light. When he saw this, Yi Zichen couldn't help but knit his brows. This was a familiar scene. If you remember correctly, someone was undergoing divine tribulation. Sulu sat cross-legged in front of a small wooden hut in the Dragon City mountain range. After waking up, she didn't blame Yi Zichen, Su Zhu, and Su Yin for their actions. She knew they'd done it for her own good. In order to avenge Yuan Hong without being restrained, she decided to take the initiative to communicate with the tribulation lightning and summon it down. Rumble. A bolt of lightning fell from the sky. By now, Su Lu had endured 27 bolts of heavenly lightning. Heavenly lightning was of the first rank. This bolt was several times stronger than the previous ones. Su Lu didn't dare be careless. She focused all her spiritual energy on defense. Boom! The bolt of lightning landed on top of Su Lu's head, but it didn't have any physical effect. Instead, it transformed into a red mist that enveloped her. Big Sister Lu is undergoing tribulation. Yi Zichen hurried over and frowned when he saw Su Lu in the center of the lightning. Su Yin froze at first, then bit her lip and nodded. That's right, Zichen. Just how much tribulation lightning is there? Why hasn't Big Sister succeeded yet? This, Yi Zichen couldn't quite explain. At the very least, when he underwent tribulation, the lightning tribulation fell endlessly. Yi Zichen, you underwent tribulation lightning before. Do you know what this bolt of lightning is for? Why isn't it aggressive at all? Also, after this bolt fell, there hasn't been another one for so long. Su Zhu frowned, but before she could finish her sentence, they saw Su Lu who was sitting cross-legged on the ground, suddenly unleash a berserk killing intent. Her eyes were bloodshot, and her surroundings were suffused with a red mist. Even her tail was blood red. Her hands had transformed into sharp claws, and she crazily destroyed the hut. This, Chapter 982, Inner Demon Tribulation. Hey, look over there. It seems to be thunder. Maybe it'll rain soon. When the time comes, that woman's fire will be extinguished and we'll be able to charge in. The demon soldiers holed up outside the range of the vermilion bird's nirvanic rebirth pointed at the distant lightning. The rest of the demons also looked at the thunderclouds, and some of the more knowledgeable ones commented. Stop dreaming. Even a phoenix's fire can't be extinguished by ordinary lightning rain, much less a vermilion bird's fire. There's a fire that can't be extinguished by lightning rain, said the demon soldier in astonishment. However, no one cared to pay attention to his ignorance. Someone's undergoing tribulation in Dragon City. The demon soldier's words reached the higher-ups' ears. One of the demon sovereigns placed his hand in front of his eyes, then came to a conclusion. He's undergoing tribulation. The other demon sovereigns nodded one after another. When Black Dragon heard that someone was undergoing tribulation, he glanced over. His brows furrowed even deeper, and his tone grew grim. How long has it been? Someone's already undergoing tribulation? Brother Su, does the 4B's formation have the effect of increasing the cultivations of those within it? After a long while, Black Dragon still didn't hear Su Yun's reply. When he turned around, he saw that Su Iyun's expression was grave. "Brother Su?" Black Dragon patted Su Iyun's shoulder, then came to his senses and arched his brows. "What is it?" "Brother Su, you've noticed the tribulation as well, haven't you?" Black Dragon pointed at the tribulation in the distance. "The person undergoing tribulation seems to be that little girl from the Nine-Tailed Fox clan. When we fought earlier, she seemed to be around half-step Immortal King. I didn't sense any signs of undergoing tribulation, but as soon as the four-beast formation was set up, she underwent tribulation. Is there a connection? If the four-beast formation had the effect of increasing the cultivator's strength, then no matter what, they couldn't allow them to successfully set up the formation. The people of the three realms were endowed with a natural advantage. They had the ley line to purify their spiritual energy. If the four-beast formation also had the effect of increasing one's strength and maintaining an invincible state, then the demons wouldn't be able to survive. Are you trying to ask me if the four-beast formation has the effect of increasing one's strength?" When Black Dragon patted him on the shoulder, Su Iyun's gaze shifted slightly. After that, his eyes were locked onto the lightning tribulation in the distance. "Yes," Black Dragon nodded, but he wondered why Brother Su was so concerned about the lightning tribulation. The four-beast formation doesn't have the effect of increasing one's spiritual power. She might be able to undergo the tribulation now because she suppressed her spiritual power before, just like you before. Now that she has released all of her spiritual power, it will naturally attract the lightning tribulation. Su Iyun replied with a frown. Black Dragon asked, confused, "Then why didn't I undergo tribulation?" "You demons don't need to undergo tribulation," said Su Iyun, still staring in the direction of the lightning tribulation. He clenched his fists on his thighs. "So that's how it is." The Black Dragon nodded in understanding. He didn't expect the demon race to have such an advantage. In the blink of an eye, his mind was filled with confusion about Su Iyun's current state. Why was he so worried about the tribulation of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan? "Master Su, do you know why the Emperor's heavenly lightning is red? Normally, heavenly lightning is blue and white," asked one of the demon sovereigns. Su Iyun answered without hesitation. "This is heart demon lightning," said one of the demon sovereigns. "It's different from ordinary heavenly lightning. Heart demon heavenly lightning attacks the heart. It doesn't have any offensive power, but it's the kind of lightning that cultivators don't want to encounter. From ancient times until now, countless heroes have fallen to heart demon heavenly lightning. Heart demon heavenly lightning is that powerful? Even great heroes can say that they've never done anything with a clear conscience. That's not all. Heart demon heavenly lightning attacks your weakest and most painful memories. Very few people can withstand this kind of attack." Slap! Before the demon sovereigns could even finish speaking, Su Iyun grabbed the arms of his chair with both hands. The onlookers stared at him in astonishment. Then they saw him rise to his feet, take out several spirit stones, and flick them at the blazing vermilion bird. Buzz! His spiritual awareness radiated light, and suddenly a cage appeared, locking Zhuge Hong inside. The waves of heat she released were isolated by the cage, unable to release any heat at all. Brother Su. When he saw Su Iyun's methods, Black Dragon knit his brows and wanted to question him. Since he had a way to restrain the vermilion bird, why did he wait until now to use it? However, Su Iyun didn't answer. He snapped his fingers, then disappeared from his chair. Black Dragon and his subordinates watched in astonishment. Black Dragon's brows furrowed so tightly they resembled small mountains. In the blink of an eye, he recalled the four-beast formation above Dragon City. Countless bone spikes sprouted from his back, transforming into bone wings that shot toward Dragon City. When the other demon sovereigns and demon warriors saw this, they dared not tarry and hurried after him. Big Sister. Su Lu's sudden change caused Su Zhu and Su Yin to cry out in alarm. At that moment, a white-robed, middle-aged man descended from the sky. Heart demon heavenly lightning. It seems the Empress has succumbed to her inner demons. Clan head Bai. When he saw the white-robed man, Yi Zichen cupped his hands and brows. He really was the head of the Tiango clan. He hadn't shown himself during the previous battle because he'd been in deep seclusion the entire time. He didn't know what was happening in the outside world. When he emerged from seclusion, he'd learned of a situation in the three realms from the Jail King. Without hesitation, he hurried to the Dragon Clan, only to run into Su Lu'er in the middle of her tribulation. Big Sister. Su Zhu and Su Lu'er stood anxiously off in the distance. Su Lu'er stood in the center of a lightning tribulation, her fair, slender claws waving about incessantly. Streaks of razor-sharp energy shot out from her claws, cutting through the surrounding ancient trees. Heart Demon Heavenly Lightning? Although Yi Zichen had experienced lightning tribulation before, he knew nothing about it. When he heard the Bai clan head say it was Heart Demon Heavenly Lightning and that she'd succumb to her inner demons, he couldn't help but ask. Big Sister Lu, or has succumbed to her inner demons. How can we help her break free? It's difficult. The Tiango clan head narrowed his eyes and shook his head. If I remember correctly, Yuan Hong, one of the three kings of Mount Huagua, died for the Empress. Their relationship, were they lovers? That's right, but what does that have to do with this? It does. The Bai clan head furrowed his brows. In truth, I only understand a little about heavenly lightning. However, I seem to have read in ancient texts that Heart Demon Heavenly Lightning will repeat the most difficult and unforgettable thoughts in a person's heart over and over again. If you're even the slightest bit careless and fall into its trap, it'll be extremely difficult to escape. If the Empress wants to break free. The Bai clan head suddenly stopped and shook his head. Chapter 983. Su Yun's strange behavior amidst the lightning tribulation. Su Lu'er had returned to Maple City, where Yuan Hong had died. Yuan Hong lay lifelessly on the ground, his chest pierced through. They were surrounded by an endless horde of demon soldiers. Damn it, all of you deserve to die. Rumble. Boundless spiritual energy surged outwards, and her blue eyes instantly turned blood red. Blood red, killing intent emanated from her body. She fought with the Yao's most instinctive fighting style, using her sharp claws and fangs to finish off all the demons within 10 meters of her. She wanted to leave Yuan Hong one last piece of pure land. No one was allowed to step within 10 meters of her. However, the demons didn't retreat in the slightest. It was as if they didn't know fear at all. They continued advancing on her and Yuan Hong. Only she and Yuan Hong were left in the world, as well as an endless horde of demons. Die, all of you! Her sharp claws tore the demons to shreds. She didn't even know how many demons had died at her hands. As far as the eye could see, all she could see were mountains of demon corpses, as well as demons trampling over the corpses of their brethren as they advanced on them. Inexplicably, she felt despair. Why hadn't anyone come to save them? Why had she stalled for so long, yet not a single ally had come to their aid? All she could see was a mountain of corpses, a sea of blood, and a swarm of demons. Why? Had she and Yuan Hong been abandoned just like that? Kill. His Excellency Black Dragon said that whoever captures this girl will be made a marquis of 1,000 households. Brothers, kill. The demons waved their bone clubs and sharp blades as they roared and charged at her. After so many battles, Su Lu'er's strength had reached its limit. She panted heavily as she listened to the words of that group of devils. Brothers, kill. That girl can't hold on much longer. When they saw Su Lu'er gasping for breath, the demons charged forward as if they'd been injected with chicken blood. At that moment, Su Lu'er suddenly smiled coldly. Crack! The swarm of demons was instantly frozen into ice sculptures by her. However, after releasing the spiritual technique, she used up the last of her strength. Hugging Yuan Hong's corpse tightly, it didn't take long for countless demons to surround it with blades. Yuan Hong. Her fingers caressed Yuan Hong's cheeks as a heart-wrenching smile appeared on her face. Why are you so stupid? Why are you so stupid? Su Lu'er murmured, then placed Yuan Hong's head on her lap. She raised her head, and a piercingly cold wind rolled up from her body, causing the surrounding demons to involuntarily take 2 steps back. I'm too useless. I can't even bring your corpse back to the clan. But it doesn't matter. You won't be lonely on the road to the Yellow Springs. I'll be there to accompany you in a while. But before that, I have more important things to do. Big Sister Lu has stopped. Has she overcome her inner demon? Yi Zichen couldn't help but ask when he saw Su Lu kneeling motionlessly on the ground. Clan head by the Tiango clan knit his brows and rubbed his chin. I can't be sure, but the murderous aura around her has weakened. It seems she's already overcome her inner demon. Not good. The demons are attacking. At this moment, someone's shout suddenly rang out from afar. Yi Zichen and clan head Bai, who'd been observing Su Lu's condition, were both shocked. They glanced at each other, then clan head Bai turned and left. Yi Zichen gazed deeply at Su Lu, then glanced at her tightly clenched fists, then left as well. However, as he left, he vaguely sensed a ripple in the surrounding space. Strange. Yi Zichen frowned and muttered to himself, but didn't pay it much attention. He hurried towards the city gates. Defend the Four Beasts formation to the death. Above the Dragon City, Xiahua shouted as he defended the Four Beasts formation to the death. His gaze was especially grave as he stared 100 miles in front of him. The vast army of demons was charging over. However, they did not charge straight in. Instead, they stopped in front of the Black Tortoise and frantically destroyed it. What's the situation? Yi Zichen landed on the city walls and gazed into the distance. Then he noticed that the vermilion bird's nirvanic transformation into a fire woman was still blazing. However, the flames seemed to be locked in place. They couldn't release their heat. The vermilion bird's nirvanic transformation, the Black Tortoise as a wall, clan head by side in amazement. He never would have guessed the battle would be so bitter. The vermilion bird's nirvanic transformation can refine heaven and earth. How did they manage to seal its nirvanic flames inside? I don't know either. Xiahua stared intently at the demons. All of this had happened too suddenly. He wasn't in the mood to exchange pleasantries with clan head Bai. The most important thing right now is how we're going to defend the Four Beast formation after the demons arrive. Clan head Bai, you might not know this, but Black Dragon is a Sky Supreme. What? The Tiango clan head's calm expression instantly grew solemn. His heart pounded wildly. How is this possible? Are there no rules to keep them in check? There are no rules here anymore. Otherwise, Black Dragon wouldn't be so arrogant. I can't explain the details to you right now, but these demons... Boom! Before Xiahua could finish his sentence, he saw the demons break through the Black Tortoise's seal 100 miles away and rush towards Dragon City. Above Dragon City, the various clansmen watched with bated breath. The Four Beast formation. Even if they had to die, they had to protect it. However, when they were about 100 meters away from Dragon City, Black Dragon ordered them to stop. He stared intently at Yi Zichen and snorted. Emperor Yi, did you really work together to put on a good show for me? Yi Zichen knit his brows, then snorted at Black Dragon. What do you mean? You're still putting on an act at a time like this? Don't you think you're going a bit too far? Black Dragon's face brimmed with disdain. Then he shrugged. But it doesn't matter. I don't care about any of this. Yi Zichen was baffled. Little did he know, Black Dragon was also secretly scrutinizing Yi Zichen's expression. There was no connection. At a time like this, there was no longer any need for Yi Zichen to hide it. However, he still didn't understand. Furthermore, if Su Yun really was on Yi Zichen's side, there was no need for him to deal with the vermilion bird's nirvanic rebirth and let them in. Could it be that he was overthinking things? But why hadn't Su Yun dealt with the rebirth right from the start? Why hadn't he left any instructions before leaving? Yi Zichen's mind was clouded with questions, but... Chapter 984. The White Emperor. The pleasantries are over. Black Dragon's eyes flashed with a hint of a smile. His smile was like a signal, causing everyone above Dragon City to focus. Whoosh. In the blink of an eye, Black Dragon disappeared from their line of sight. The people in Dragon City didn't even have a chance to react. When the Black Dragon appeared in front of them again, Dong. White Emperor. Black Dragon had already landed several meters away from the Four Beast formation. He punched out. Facing him was the Tiango clan head, the White Emperor, who'd grabbed his fist with a calm smile. With a push of his right hand, Black Dragon landed 100 meters away. It's been 10,000 years. Have you recovered from your old injuries? Black Dragon's left arm trembled inexplicably. He couldn't help but think back to how his right arm had been broken by the man before him. The White Emperor, one of the 3 emperors of the Beast region. His name was D. He could be considered as the first famous emperor of the upper 3 realms. Even if it was the Jade Emperor of the Heavenly Court or the Great Sacred Emperor equaling heaven of the underworld, this White Emperor was already an emperor before they were crowned emperors. Given his astonishing talent, he could have broken through to godhood tens of thousands of years ago. But even after tens of thousands of years, he remained at the peak of the immortal king realm. He hadn't taken a single step forward. Add to that the sudden rise of the Jade Emperor and the Great Sacred Emperor equaling heaven, and the White Emperor's fame gradually faded from people's minds. But while others could forget, Black Dragon couldn't. 10,000 years ago, he'd attacked the 3 realms and returned empty-handed. He'd lost to Black Dragon. He hadn't even resisted. He'd been completely one-sided. Everyone above Dragon City was astonished. Even Xiahua hesitated. His gaze flickered between the White Emperor and Black Dragon. They'd crossed paths before, but from what the White Emperor had said, it seemed Black Dragon hadn't gained anything from him. More importantly, the White Emperor's attack, just now. Even Xiahua hadn't been able to react in time to Black Dragon's disappearance. But this White Emperor... In the distance, Black Dragon did his best to stop his left arm from trembling. His eyes flashed with disdain. White Emperor, I've always remembered the grudge of losing my arm. I did lose back then, but I can't say for sure now. Are you sure? Emperor Bai smiled and looked over. In that instant, Black Dragon felt as though he had fallen into a freezing lake. His instincts were constantly warning him how dangerous the owner of this gaze was. At that moment, Suju anxiously ran out of Dragon City. Her anxious face was filled with unease. Suju landed directly in front of Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen hurriedly reached out to support her. Suju, what's wrong? Zichen, come with me. Big sis, Suju was so anxious she couldn't even speak. She had no time to worry about the demonic army pressing down on them. The way she saw it, Su Lu's situation was far more important. Didn't Big Sis Lu settle down? Could it be? Yi Zichen suddenly had a bad premonition, but he instantly recalled that the demons had already arrived at Dragon City. Come with me. Little Yin is still there. I'm afraid. Suju's shoulders began to tremble, but Yi Zichen was stuck between a rock and a hard place. Don't worry, Emperor Yi. Leave this place to me. Emperor Bai laughed. He faced Black Dragon, who was already a Sky Supreme, but there was no hint of seriousness in his expression. On the contrary, there was even a hint of disdain. Heart demon tribulation isn't that easy to overcome. She might have only calmed down because of her heart demons. For the Empress's safety, Emperor Yi had best go take a look. As for this place, I can guarantee you that the demons can't possibly break through the 4B's formation. Then I'll be counting on you, Emperor Bai. Yi Zichen cupped his hands at Emperor Bai, then frowned at Suju. Take me there. Suju and Yi Zichen left Dragon City and headed for Su Lu's ancient forest. Emperor Bai watched them leave, then turned around with a calm smile. How could Black Dragon, who was already a Sky Supreme, endure such contempt? Emperor Bai, noisy. Emperor Bai rubbed his ears, then looked at Black Dragon coldly. Retreat or die. Arrogant. As soon as he spoke, he revealed his Sky Supreme aura. His boundless spiritual pressure weighed down on everyone in Dragon City, making it hard for them to breathe. To everyone's surprise, Emperor Bai simply smiled and allowed Black Dragon's spiritual energy storm to sweep across his face. Soon after, a cold laugh emerged from his mouth. Huh! Instantly, he stood with his hands clasped behind his back and unleashed an even more berserk wave of spiritual energy, completely suppressing Black Dragon's aura. Emperor Bai, unfathomable. Big sister, hurry up and wake up. Su Yin stood outside the lightning tribulation and bit her lip. She fidgeted with the hem of her clothes, unsure of what to do. She called out to Su Lu'er over and over again in an attempt to wake her up, but how could she possibly hear Su Yan's calls? Big sister, big sister. Su Yan bit her lip and muttered incessantly, but at that moment, she saw Su Lu'er suddenly look in her direction. Her scarlet eyes flashed with demonic light. Under her gaze, Su Yan practically lost the ability to think. Whoosh! Suddenly, Su Lu'er charged out of the lightning tribulation's range. She arrived in front of Su Yan, reached out, and grabbed her by the neck. Big sister, wake up! Su Lu'er lifted Su Yan into the air and slapped her arm repeatedly. She kicked wildly in the air, her face contorted in pain as she called out, Big sister. Su Lu'er didn't wake her up, but all she got was an even more savage expression. Die, die, die. Su Lu'er tightened her grip on Su Yan's neck. She felt powerless and suffocated. Big sister, splurt. A streak of bloody light flashed before Su Yan's eyes. She felt the grip on her neck vanish, and scalding liquid splashed onto her face. She subconsciously wiped the liquid off her face. It was blood. Only then did she see that Su Lu'er was clutching her arm and screaming in pain. Her arm had already been chopped off. The severed arm fell to the ground, blood gushing out of it. At that moment, Su Yan fell from the sky, but in the blink of an eye, she landed in someone's arms. She turned to look at the person who was hugging her. In an instant, she was stunned in that person's embrace. She couldn't speak. All she could do was stare at the man holding her in undisguised astonishment. The man said nothing. He simply held a sharp sword in his hand. Blood dripped down the blade and onto the ground. Chapter 985. Brother. He swung his sword, shaking off all the blood on it. The man holding Su Yan frowned, his pitch-black eyes filled with undisguised rage. I left my little sister in your care. Is this how you take care of her? Su Lu'er's furious questions didn't elicit a single reply. She simply hugged her bleeding arm, her scarlet eyes filled with undisguisable killing intent. I sympathize with you, but that doesn't mean you can hurt my little sister. Buzz. The long sword in her hand let out a cry, its silver blade vibrating. Su Yun. The person holding her was Su Yun. Even though he'd lost so much life force that he looked old, Su Yan recognized him at a glance. However, Su Yan immediately recognized her as her big brother, who had doted on her in the modern realm. He was her big brother, the one who'd run several kilometers away to buy her favorite food, even when it was raining and she was hungry. He'd even put the food in his clothes for fear it would get cold. Hadn't he gone to the demons? Why was he here all of a sudden? And why was he talking about little sister? Didn't he already abandon her when they were in the modern realm? Don't be afraid. With your big brother here, no one can hurt you. Su Yun used a very solemn tone to comfort Su Yan. Only then did Su Yan speak with a trembling voice. I'm fine, I'm fine. You? How could it be you? Didn't you go to the demons? Su Yun's body trembled inexplicably as he hugged Su Yan. Then, he pursed his lips into a smile and looked at her with a gentle gaze. I'll explain later. Right now, it's best if you get rid of her as soon as possible. Don't. Su Yan thought Su Yun was going to kill Su Lu'er, so she hurriedly said, Big sister Lu'er is undergoing her tribulation. She's usually very good to me, so don't kill her. I know. Su Yun smiled at Su Yan. Then his gaze suddenly turned sinister. It's exactly because she's undergoing her tribulation that it's a bit troublesome. But don't worry, I know what I'm doing. I won't actually kill her. Whoosh! Su Yun tossed his sword high into the air. Then he watched as she formed a series of hand seals. Infinite universe, impermanence, soul-locking formation, rise. The sword sank into the ground next to Su Lu'er's feet, and a hexagonal formation of light appeared beneath her feet. Blue light shot out from the 6 corners of the formation and converged at the top, forming a pyramid that sealed Su Lu'er within. Die, die. Su Lu'er continued to howl madly as the sealing formation sealed her. When he saw this, Su Yun tapped the air with the tip of his foot and floated down in front of Su Lu'er. Sister. Su Yan called out worriedly from outside the formation. However, Su Luer reached out from within the cage and clawed at Su Yin. Impudent! With a heavy slap on the spiritual array, several bolts of lightning appeared on the light beam of the cage. Su Luer hurriedly retracted her hand. Her scarlet eyes were filled with terror as she curled up and carefully hid. Big sister, although she'd almost grabbed Su Yin just now, when she saw Su Luer like this, she couldn't help but cry out in alarm. Then she turned to Su Yun and begged, "Don't shock Big Sister Luer anymore. She didn't do it on purpose." Only then did Su Yun retract the lightning from the formation. Seeing this, Su Yin let out a long sigh, then said, "Do you have any way to help Big Sister Luer return to normal? If you do, can you for my sake?" "All right, I got it." Su Yun patted Su Yin on the head, then snorted at the beast-like Su Luer in the cage. "You forced your tribulation before eliminating your inner demons. If it weren't for my little sister's sake, and considering how well you've treated her all this time, I wouldn't even bother with you." With that, a beam of blue light appeared on Su Yun's finger. "What's going on with Big Sister Luer?" "When I left, she seemed very calm." Yi Zichen hurried over from Dragon City and asked Su Zhu about the situation. When he heard her reply, her expression was one of unease and fear. "I don't know either. Not long after you left, Big Sister Luer's red aura grew even more intense. Before, she might have been a bit apprehensive. Lil, Yin, and I were fine. But this time, she didn't even care about me or Lillian. How could it be so serious?" As they spoke, they'd already arrived at Su Luer's location. Then they saw her bound within a spiritual formation, one of her arms hanging off to the side. In front of her stood a man, doing something to her, they didn't know what. More importantly, the man was holding Su Yin in his arms. From her expression, it was clear that she was extremely nervous. "Su Yin, Big Sister Luer." Yi Zichen's eyes were bloodshot as he shouted. Su Yun and Su Yin turned to look at him. "Yi." Su Yun's hand glowed with blue light, and he smiled. He'd been a spy for the demons for so long, and in order to avoid Black Dragon's suspicions, he'd done quite a few things to let his brother down. Now that he'd pretty much laid the groundwork, he was finally free to take advantage of this opportunity to explain himself. However, he'd already condensed a spiritual incantation. Condensing another one would take up a lot of time, so he decided to deal with Su Luer first, then have a good chat with his old friend. However, in Yi Zichen's eyes, his smile was disdain, mocking. It was as if he were saying, "Yi Zichen and the others are very important to you, aren't they? Now they're in my hands. Look, I'm going to kill her right in front of you. Su Yun, you're seeking death." In his fury, Yi Zichen pushed his speed to the limit and gathered all of his spiritual energy into his right hand. "The universe is infinite. The Tao is impermanent. Break all." Slash. Su Yan's fist pierced through Su Yun's chest from the back. When she saw the bloody hand poking out his chest, Su Yan's eyes instantly widened. "No!" When his hand pierced through Su Yun's chest, Yi Zichen was inexplicably stunned. How could he not resist? Until he heard Su Yan's shrill cries and saw Su Yun holding her. "You? The universe is infinite. The Tao is impermanent. Break all barriers." Even though his chest had been pierced, Su Yun still gently placed his glowing blue hand between Su Luer's eyebrows. The blue light entered her forehead, and before long, all of the red aura around Su Luer's body dissipated. His hand. Su Yun pulled his hand out of Su Yun's chest, causing him to turn around. Blood gushed out his chest, but he still reached his hand out towards Yi Zichen. "Yi, long time no see." Bang! Su Yun knelt on the ground. She could no longer control her emotions. Chapter 986. What did he just call me? He called me easy. He called me easy. Yi Zichen stared blankly at the man kneeling on the ground. Su Yun hugged him and cried. "Easy, it was autumn. Red maple leaves covered the entire Polytechnic University's sports field." Yi Zichen, who just registered, dragged his simple suitcase to his dorm room. "Hey, you're new." The one who spoke was a young man who was smoking on the windowsill. His clothes looked expensive at first glance. And back then, he maintained an absolute distance from strangers. Even now, it was still the same. Yi Zichen looked at the empty beds in the room, then placed his suitcase on the bed by the window. Not bad. You even chose a window seat. It seems we're kindred spirits? The youth nudged him with his shoulder. Yi Zichen frowned in displeasure, but said nothing. Stop pretending. We can see the female dorm building from here. Beauty Sue's dorm room is right across the street. I heard all the women there are top quality. Right? I still don't know your name, brother. Yi Zichen. Yi Zichen didn't particularly like this sort of friendly greeting. He frowned as he replied. He really wanted to use his icy tone to force the youth to back off, but he never would have guessed that the guy would reach out and wrap his arm around his shoulder. I'm Sui-Yun. Hey, Yi Zichen, then I'll call you Yeezy from now on. Yeezy, I like you too. Do you want Beauty Sue's phone number? I can give it to you. That was how Yi Zichen got his name. Perhaps Yi Zichen didn't even know why they'd become such good brothers despite having completely different personalities when they first entered university. Until, I'm telling you, let's disperse. Sui-Yun stood by Gu Li's side, a chilling smile tugging at his lips. Behind him stood an army of demons that blotted out the sky while Yi Zichen. Countless motionless corpses lay on the ground, as well as Su-Yin, whom Sui-Yun had coldly kicked away. His best brother went to the demons. In Yi Zichen's heart, he'd defended him countless times and found all sorts of excuses for him. However, everything that happened afterwards caused his heart to grow colder and colder. Only now did he truly decide to kill Sui-Yun. But Yi, brother. Sui-Yun hugged Sui-Yun tightly and wept bitterly. Her cries were heart-wrenching. Su-Zhu landed in front of Su-Luer. When she saw Su-Luer's missing arm, her heart ached inexplicably, but when she saw that Su-Luer had truly calmed down, she felt a little more at ease. Yi Zichen stood in the middle of all of this in a daze. He looked at his trembling hand, which was still dripping with blood. Didn't he seek refuge with the devil race? Didn't he say that they were enemies and not friends? One scene after another flashed through Yi Zichen's mind. No matter how resolute his words were, they were all defeated by Yi Zichen's final words. Third, he spared no effort in pouring pure spiritual power into Su-Yun's body. But when it did, he discovered that Su-Yun didn't have long to live. Forget it. Don't waste your energy on me. My life has come to an end. Su-Yun pushed Yi Zichen's hand away with a smile, then patted Su-Yan's head. Actually, I'm quite glad I got the chance to see you guys again. You've never truly sought refuge with the demons, have you? You've never truly sought refuge with them, have you? Shouted Yi Zichen. Of course, I'm your brother, the reincarnation of the Yellow Emperor. The demons are your greatest enemy. How could I possibly ally myself with them? Are they even worthy? Su-Yun smiled casually, but when Yi Zichen heard that, his mind went blank. Are they worthy? That one sentence explained everything. From start to finish, Su-Yun had never once cared about the demons. Then why did you lie to me? Why did you tell me that you were enemies and not friends? Why did you fight me for the demons again and again? Just why? Su-Yun, tell me. Just why? Yi Zichen shouted angrily. He didn't understand. Just why was Su-Yun able to put on such a perfect act? He wasn't an actor, so how could he act so realistically? Why? Was it because I want you to kill me with your own hands? Just as that thought surfaced in Yi Zichen's mind, Su-Yun laughed. I'm doing this so you'll hate me, so you'll kill me with your own hands. I've harmed far too many innocent people. You represent the people of the three realms. If you kill me, consider it revenge for them. Bullshit, roared Yi Zichen, his eyes bloodshot. You still haven't told me why you went to the demons. Guli already said that if you and I work together, how could the demons possibly be our match? So long as we work together, you won't. As he said that, Yi Zichen choked up. 20 years old. His life force had been wasted to the point of exhaustion. Yi Zichen simply couldn't understand what Su-Yun had gone through in the demon's territory to exhaust his life force to such an extent. It's the same. The power I control now came from exhausting my own life force. Even if I were on your side, if I hadn't exhausted my life force, I wouldn't have my current strength. Su-Yun smiled calmly, his eyes filled with relief. You don't need to tell me why I didn't tell you. I have no way of telling you. From the moment I placed my piece, there was no way of replaying the game. Besides, I have to stand on the demon's side in order to maximize the heat waves I radiate. I don't understand what you're saying. Yi Zichen shook his head repeatedly. He didn't understand a single thing Su Yun was saying. Cough. At that moment, Su Yun coughed up a mouthful of blood. Su Yin, who was treating his wounds, inexplicably trembled. Su Yun simply wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with his sleeve, then reached out and tousled Su Yan's hair. All right, stop treating me. Lil Yin, big brother let you down back then. Su Yin shook her head repeatedly, and the light in her hand grew brighter and brighter. But no matter what she did, Su Yun's aura only grew weaker and weaker. She hated herself. Why hadn't she followed that person in her mind and learned healing arts? Why had she always been so timid and afraid to touch him? It was all because of her timidity, her fear. She couldn't save her big brother. Lil Yin, when he saw Su Yin sweat, Su Yun couldn't help but try to comfort her. However, Su Yin shouted firmly, "Don't worry about me. Don't say anything." Su Yin lowered her head and pressed her hands against Su Yun's chest. Su Yun could only shake his head helplessly, then turned to Yi Zichen and smiled. Chapter 987. Back in the day, Chapter 987. Memories of the past. You're still joking around at a time like this? As Su Yun's aura grew weaker and weaker, Yi Zichen's anxiety grew even more obvious. If he died, he'd blame himself for the rest of his life. Yi Zichen grabbed Su Yun's arm with his right hand and poured spiritual energy into him. Even if Su Yun's life force was on the verge of exhaustion, he couldn't just let him die like this. I already told you not to worry about me, said Su Yun weakly. Su Yun said weakly. Yi Zichen looked up and glared at him fiercely. Calm your mind and circulate your spiritual energy to recover. I said I don't have time, shouted Su Yun, still sitting on the ground beneath the ancient tree. Give me your hand. Yi Zichen, who'd been pouring spiritual energy into Su Yun's arm, froze. When he saw Su Yun's expression, he slowly extended his hand. That's more like it. Su Yun smiled and took his hand. Then his body suddenly emitted a dazzling blue light. The blue light shot into the sky. Even Su Yin, who was in the middle of treating Su Yun's injuries, was forced back several steps. I've finally completed the mission you gave me. It was a rainy night. Who's been sneaking around behind me? I've noticed you for a long time now. Let me tell you, I'm no ordinary person. If you dare touch me, I won't let you live in Bingsheng. After Li Min Yi's birthday party ended, Su Yun stopped on his way home. The street light shone on his shadow, elongating it. He abruptly turned his head, his gaze sharp as he looked into the distance of the street. I never would have guessed you were a hedonistic son of a rich family. At that moment, a black shadow flashed across the street. When Su Yun came to his senses, there was another person standing in front of him. Yi, what are you doing here? Su Yun stared blankly at the white-robed man in front of him. In the blink of an eye, he furrowed his brows and took a few steps back. You're not Yi. Who the hell are you? Me? Actually, you can call me Gu Zichen, but I'm also Yi Zichen. In other worlds, the white-robed man smiled calmly. Su Yun didn't understand. His frown hadn't eased since the man's appearance. Who the hell are you? Are you trying to tell me a tongue twister? What Gu Zichen? What Yi Zichen? What other worlds? I think you've read too many novels. Do you think you've transmigrated? I'm in a terrible mood right now. I advise you not to provoke me. I'm the young master of the Su Financial Group. If you know what's good for you, hurry up and scram. Looks like I have to make you remember something. As soon as he finished speaking, Su Yun saw the man calling himself Gu Zichen swing his hand towards his head. Before he could warn them, countless images appeared in his mind. In his memory, he was wearing golden armor, and his gaze was always fixed on the man in the yellow robe who had his back to him. The scene changed several times. Little Yin, in the image in his sea of consciousness, a woman dressed in ancient red clothes stood in front of him. Her exquisite face was marked with faint anger, and beside her, the yellow-robed man finally turned around. However, compared to the Yi Zichen he knew, this yellow-robed man seemed much older and steadier. Changxian, come back. The yellow-robed man roared angrily. Then he saw the man in golden armor. That had to be him, right? He ignored the yellow-robed man's roars and swung his sword madly at the yowl that blotted out the sky. Thud! A teardrop involuntarily flowed down from his eyes. Why did these images make his heart ache? Why? Wasn't this just an ordinary period drama? But tears flowed uncontrollably down his cheeks. Big bro, run. Under the streetlight, he suddenly shouted. But in the next moment, he was stunned. He didn't even know why he had shouted this sentence. The white-robed man retracted his hand. Su Yun stood there in a daze, recalling the images in his mind. He didn't know what to do. It seems you remember? A faint smile tugged at the corners of the white-robed man's mouth. From the look in his eyes, he probably knew what Su Yun was seeing. Who the hell are you? Why did you instill these memories into my head? Are you someone from that place? Su Yun knew of the existence of cultivators. The fact that the person in front of him was able to silently instill these images into his mind meant that he was definitely someone from that place. I didn't instill them into you. These are all memories from before your reincarnation. I merely helped you remember them. Then why didn't you let me see them? The later scenes are too bloody. I'm afraid that you can't take it. The white-robed man pursed his lips and smiled. All right, let's not dwell on these topics. Let's talk about something more important. Speak, Su Yun said. Your little girlfriend is a demon, right? Su Yun, who was standing under the streetlight, suddenly trembled. That was what he was frustrated about. Yi Zichen is your best friend. He is the reincarnation of the Yellow Emperor. You already know that, right? What exactly are you trying to say? Su Yun's expression was extremely dark. Faint spiritual energy was already circulating around his body. If you have anything to say, then say it. Otherwise, don't blame me for attacking you. When the white-robed man sensed the fluctuations of Su Yun's spiritual energy, he merely laughed disdainfully. Then he pointed a finger at Su Yun's head. Su Yun was sent flying backward, crashing viciously into the lamppost. Cough! Su Yun knelt on the ground and coughed repeatedly. The white-robed man landed by his side. Based on your meager level, you're still far from being my match. What exactly do you want? Are you a demon Li Min sent to deal with me? Let me tell you, I'd rather die than betray my brother. I can't take out the chessboard she planted in me. I can't beat you, so just kill me. His expression was savage, and he roared maniacally. His body was in so much pain that he couldn't move, but his gaze conveyed his determination. Join the demons. Impossible. Not bad, not bad. So that's how he answered all those years ago. When the white-robed man saw Su Yun's savage expression, a faint, bitter smile appeared in his eyes. He reached out and helped Su Yun up from the ground. A milky white halo of light entered Su Yun's body. I'm not a demon. You don't need to worry about that. Then who the hell are you? Why did you mention Li Min and my brother? Su Yun still hadn't let down his guard. Chapter 988. Chapter 988. Soul-locking technique. The night rain was still pattering down. Su Yun was drenched from head to toe. He climbed over the fence, avoided the security guard's line of sight, and transformed his spiritual energy into a key. He unlocked the door, opened the door. In the quiet hallway, Su Yun could even hear the echo of his words. Creak. The door swung open. Li Min ran out barefoot in her nightgown. She ignored the rain on Su Yun's body and hugged him tightly. I knew you'd choose me. Li Min hugged Su Yun's neck and cried. When he'd flung her hand and left, she'd sat on her bed the entire night, her heart in turmoil. Only when he came back did her heart relax. Yes, of course I'd choose you. From start to finish, Su Yun's hands never once held Li Min. He simply said in a deep voice, I promise you, I'll go back to the demons with you. Time passed quickly. In the blink of an eye, 2 years had passed. When he looked back on the past 2 years, Su Yun found it impossible to face his past with a clear conscience. His hands were stained with the blood of far too many innocents, both directly and indirectly. Having lived in the devil race for a period of time, he actually knew in his heart that not all the devil race were unpardonably evil people. Not everyone in the world he'd once lived in was a good person. All of this was just a contest between the invaders and the defenders. The defenders, on the other hand, stood at the pinnacle of kindness and slandered the demons. That was all. But he wouldn't say it out loud. In any case, he was going to die. In that case, he might as well let him bear all of this sin. At the very least, he could do what he had to do. Soul-locking technique. Su Yun held Yi Zichen's hand. His eyes narrowed, and he roared. Instantly, blue light radiated from his body, and strange blue runes coalesced around him. Yun, soul-locking technique. If he remembered correctly, Yin Shang had used a 6th-level soul-locking formation. However, even though he was a supreme, he'd still run out of spiritual energy and used up most of his life force. 8 levels. It was obviously a level higher than the 6th level. What are you doing? Yi Zichen, who Su Yun was holding, couldn't move at all. All he could do was glare and roar angrily as Su Yun's body gradually dissipated. Countless runes flew out of his body and rose up into the sky. As the runes intertwined, a large blue disk appeared from the void. Dong! Baidi's face was solemn. In the process of fighting, he had to admit that the sky's supreme black dragon was no longer the existence he had toyed with in the palm of his hand. The Sky Supreme level finally gave him a sense of power. A trickle of blood flowed down his arm. His right arm had been severed when they exchanged blows just now. White Emperor, you're no longer the evergreen tree you once were. Your spiritual pressure is very strong, far stronger than mine. But what you can really use is only at the peak of the Earth Supreme level. I don't know why it's like this. Perhaps you have a great treasure that prevents you from using your full strength. However, this throne still won. In the distance, the black dragon sinisterly smiled. Then boundless spiritual energy gathered in his arm. I'll take your life this time. BZE. At that moment, a strange ripple spread through the sky. Black Dragon, who had been gathering his power, suddenly stopped, his face filled with terror. A blue halo suddenly appeared above his head, transforming into chains that bound him. But it wasn't just him. All of the demons under his command glowed with a blue light. Only Li Min, he remained unharmed. What's going on? Black Dragon roared inwardly. He struggled with all his might, but found that the more he struggled, the tighter the chains became. Then he sensed that the chains were absorbing the spiritual energy in his body, gathering it into the blue halo above his head. The other demons did the same. Their spiritual energy condensed into threads and gathered in the halo above their heads. A strand of blue thread emerged from the halo and extended upwards until it finally landed on the circular array in the void. The people above Dragon City froze. Following the thread above Black Dragon's head, they finally noticed the disc formation. What's going on? The people on the city walls whispered to each other, only to hear Black Dragon howl at the sky. Su Yun, the 8th-level soul-locking formation. No wonder Su Yun's vitality had been so severely depleted. He'd never guessed he'd been studying this formation all this time. Even more surprising was the fact that he hadn't truly joined the demon race. Su Yun, I'm going to kill you. Black Dragon's eyes blazed with fury. He frantically tried to break free. Su Yun. Black Dragon howled madly in the distance. Guli's expression was sinister as well. He too was bound in chains. He never would have guessed that Su Yun had left an imprint on him. In the past, he'd always been extremely cautious. Although he'd met Su Yun many times, he'd never let him touch him. Only a few days ago. Damn it. The spiritual power of the entire devil race continued to gather towards the great array in the sky, and the blue color of the great array became deeper and deeper. Yun, what the hell are you doing? Su Yun grabbed Yi Zichen by the hand and shouted anxiously. His dear friend had used his body as a formation and his soul to refine it. His scattered spiritual energy flowed in all directions, condensing into runes and embedding themselves into the blue disk in the sky. I said I was going to give you a gift, so I naturally have to give you one. Practically half of Su Yun's body had disappeared. He smiled calmly, his pitch-black eyes filled with apologetic light. In truth, I haven't finished preparing the gift yet. I originally planned on using my own body as a medium to filter the demon's spiritual energy before giving it to you. However, given my current situation, I can't do much for you." As he spoke, Yi Zichen felt his body float uncontrollably into the sky until he landed in the center of the enormous disk. The runes embedded into the disk suddenly lit up. Yi Zichen heard Su Yun's transmission in his sea of consciousness. "Min is different from the other demons. When the time comes, please spare her life for my sake." At the same time, Li Min received a transmission as well. "I'm sorry, I lied to you, but I really do love you." Li Min, who'd been looking around in confusion, suddenly froze. She looked around, flustered, and a tear slid down her cheek. "I don't blame you." A faint smile tugged at Su Yun's lips. Then he slammed his right hand into the ground. 8-level spirit-boosting formation. Activate. Once everything was over, the remnants of Su Yun's body disappeared from the world. Chapter 989. Chapter 989. Double Formation, Big Brother. Su Yin watched as Su Yun disappeared. Her eyes were bloodshot as she ran after him, but all she saw were specks of light. Pitter-patter. A drop of rain fell from the sky. Before long, a torrential downpour began. "It's raining. Why is it raining all of a sudden?" The old man and the children who stayed behind Dragon City all returned to their rooms when the rain fell. Su Yin knelt where Su Yun had disappeared, allowing the rain to soak her close. Yun. Far away, outside Dragon City, Li Min sat on the ground in a daze. She looked up at the torrential rain, her tears dripping down her chin and onto the ground. Little did she know, Su Yun, in soul form, had witnessed it all. He smiled at the world around him, then opened his hands. In his hands was a light pink hair clip. Clatter. The hair clip fell from the sky and landed right in front of Su Yin. She reached out and picked it up. This hair clip was the one Su Yun had given her at her coming-of-age ceremony. It was also the same hair clip he'd disdainfully tossed away when they'd broken up in the modern realm. Her body trembled violently as she clutched the hair clip tightly in her hands. Big Brother, Su Luer, who'd just emerged from her inner demons, woke up. When she saw Su Yin wailing her heart out, she subconsciously glanced at Su Zhu. Su Zhu simply shook her head. At that moment, Su Yin needed peace and quiet. OL3. Yi Zichen roared, his eyes bloodshot. He struggled free of his chains and tried to return to the ancient tree Su Yun was leaning against, but the chains around his feet kept him firmly locked to the disc. Yi Zi, stop. Yi Zichen suddenly heard a soft murmur. He instantly froze, then looked around frantically. OL3. Rumble. Thunder rumbled overhead. Yi Zichen, who'd been calling out to Su Yun, suddenly grimaced and cried out in pain. The moment the thunder fell, the spiritual power continuously poured into his body through the chains. Countless strands of spiritual energy surged through his meridians, tearing them apart. Yi Zichen couldn't help but cry out in pain from the heart-wrenching pain. Look, Emperor Yi. The torrential rain didn't affect their vision, so they immediately noticed Yi Zichen, bound in chains. How did Emperor Yi get up there? Some people in the crowd couldn't help but speak up, and some even suggested, "Shouldn't we send some people to rescue Emperor Yi?" "Don't." The White Emperor waved at them, then looked at Black Dragon and Yi Zichen. Emperor Yi's situation should be different from that of the demons. "White Emperor, please speak clearly," said someone from the Beast region. "If I'm not mistaken, the demons are trapped in an 8th-level soul-locking formation. The 80-level soul lock formation can be considered one of the 8 great ominous formations of the ancient era. Its function is to lock the soul of the person within the formation. However, the person who sets up the formation must use the soul as a guide. Because this spiritual formation causes great harm to the person who sets up the formation, it is listed as one of the 8 great ominous formations. However, it can also be considered one of the 8 great mysterious formations. Everyone in Dragon City listened attentively to Emperor Bai's narration. What he said was something that even the 4 divine clans had never recorded. What makes it special is that it has a twin formation, the 8th level spirit-boosting formation. The 8th level soul-locking formation binds souls, but so long as they come into contact with it, the formation will absorb the souls, transform them into spiritual power, and imbue them with the formation's user. Right now, Emperor, you should be the one benefiting from the formation. The onlookers were so shocked they couldn't speak. The way they saw it, this formation was simply too heaven-defying. It could absorb spiritual energy and transfer it into someone else's body. Didn't that mean that if Emperor Yi absorbed all of the demon's spiritual energy, he'd be invincible? It's not as simple as you think, said the White Emperor. When he saw their shocked expressions, he knew they'd misunderstood. If these two formations were as good as you think, they wouldn't be ranked among the great ancient formations. The 8th level spirit-boosting formation does indeed devour the soul's spiritual energy, but in the end, it's an inanimate object. It doesn't know how to remove impurities. In other words, it'll transfer whatever it absorbs into the recipient's body. Most importantly, it won't stop. Doesn't that mean that Emperor Yi might, Xiahua furrowed his brows, not be able to bear the influx of so much spiritual energy and explode? It's possible, nodded the White Emperor. Then all the more reason for us to rescue Emperor Yi from that so-called spirit-boosting formation. We should, but given our abilities, there's no way we can break it, said the White Emperor, narrowing his eyes. Since ancient times, the 8th level spirit-boosting formation has only appeared twice. Of those 2 times, only once resulted in the recipient exploding. The other time, a ruler-level expert broke it. Rumble. Muffled thunder rumbled through the air. Unable to bear the influx of spiritual energy, Yi Zichen knelt to the ground in pain. Gradually, the same symbols that had appeared on Su Yun's body appeared on his face and arms. Ah! Yi Zichen howled in agony. The demon soldiers, supplying him with spiritual energy, were starting to run dry. Their faces were pale, their eyes bulging, and they collapsed to the ground. The blue halo above his head faded, and so did the light. As a sky supreme, Black Dragon's reserve of spiritual energy was naturally far stronger than that of the ordinary demon soldiers. He could clearly sense his spiritual energy draining away. He struggled with all his might. Break for me! At this moment, a crack actually appeared on the chain, binding his body. Soon after, the bone spikes on his back pierced through the crack in the chain. Break! Bang! He struggled with all his might, and the chains binding him really did shatter. They fell to the ground. His chains shattered, and like a butterfly effect, the others' chains fell to the ground as well. The first thing they did after being freed from their chains was sit on the ground and recover. However, Black Dragon didn't. He merely squinted at the disk in the sky, then fixed his gaze on Yi Zichen. He circulated his spiritual energy in his arms and flew towards the disk. He's going to break that disk. Practically everyone in Dragon City was still in shock at Black Dragon breaking free from his chains. However, when they saw that he was about to attack the disk, several figures simultaneously rushed towards it. Chapter 990. Chapter 990. Tribulation again. This was truly unexpected. Brother Su, whom he had always trusted the most, was actually just playing a game with him. He truly hated him. Whenever he recalled how he'd called Su Yun brother, he couldn't help but overflow with hatred. He'd given Su Yun his position, second only to one and above all others. Even he didn't dare slight Su Yun, yet all he'd gotten was betrayal. Just now, he'd almost died in Su Yun's formation. You really are a good brother. Black Dragon's heart was filled with hatred as he flew towards the disk in the sky. However, his brother should have already died in the formation. Then he'd use his old friend to vent his anger. Divine Dragon Tail Whip. To Black Dragon's left, the Azure Dragon's enormous tail whistled through the air. The white bones on his arm wriggled, and a sturdy shield appeared on his arm, forcibly blocking the tail whip. Little Azure Dragon, I'm not in the mood to play with you right now. You'd best. Before he finished speaking, Black Dragon, who had been rushing towards the disk, suddenly stopped. He looked ahead with a faint smile on his lips. So they're all here. The destruction of the chains allowed Yi Zichen to catch his breath. He panted heavily, but the parasitic spiritual energy in his body kept trying to break free of his body's restraints. However, the spiritual power that wanted to escape was suppressed by the runes on the surface of his skin. Yi Zichen exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, then sat cross-legged on the ground and focused all of his attention on suppressing the spiritual energy inside him. Tens of thousands of different spiritual energies were like tens of thousands of sentient spirits. They all repelled the surrounding spiritual energy, but at the same time, they sought opportunities to devour weaker ones. Fleeing and killing had pushed Yi Zichen's meridians to the brink of collapse. All of you, behave yourselves. Yi Zichen roared inwardly, then used his own spiritual energy to suppress the foreign spiritual energy. The weak were prey to the strong. Even in the face of this spiritual energy, it was effective. The weaker clumps of spiritual energy cautiously surrounded Yi Zichen's main spiritual energy. The slightly stronger spiritual energy from the crab eyed Yi Zichen like a tiger watching its prey. It didn't dare act rashly. Humph! Yi Zichen snorted coldly, then closed his eyes and focused on maintaining his composure. Devour. The main body's spiritual power was like a tiger hunting a rabbit, using thunderous methods to devour all the surrounding spiritual power. Refine. Yi Zichen refined the impurities in the spiritual energy, leaving behind only the purest spiritual energy. Once it merged with Yi Zichen's own spiritual energy, he could clearly feel his strength increase. After that, he started to attack those spiritual energies that had yet to attach themselves to him. Devour. Refine. After repeating this process countless times, Yi Zichen's strength began to climb without end. Intermediate stage, Immortal King. Immortal King peak stage. The suppressive might within his body grew stronger and stronger. Whether it was the Beast Region experts who'd landed outside the disk to protect Yi Zichen or Black Dragon, they could all sense the speed at which his spiritual energy rose. We can't let him continue refining it. A sinister light flashed across Black Dragon's eyes as he sensed Yi Zichen's increase in strength. His wings lifted him high into the air. He attacked brazenly. The moment he attacked, the Beast Region's forces charged forward to meet him. Instantly, streaks of light flashed and rumbled without end. When a violent spiritual energy fluctuations came into contact with the disc was completely repelled. Yi Zichen sat atop the disc with his eyes closed. He was using the fastest method possible to refine and devour the spiritual energy in his body. Boom! There was a flash of golden light. A golden longsword emerged from between Yi Zichen's eyebrows. The golden light was so pure that it was devoid of any impurities. After emerging from his forehead, it was like a proud child. It coiled around Yi Zichen, its blade vibrating nonstop. Die! At the same time, Black Dragon, who'd been fighting several Beast Region experts, let out a fierce roar. Soon after, his palm pierced through the chest of an ironback bear. He grabbed the beating heart in his hand and crushed it with all his might. Blood splattered everywhere. The 100-foot-tall ironback bear's raised arm fell lifelessly to the ground. Oomph! Kicking the ironback bear off the ground, Black Dragon lowered his bloodied hand and looked in front of him. Xiahua, who transformed into an azure dragon, was covered in blood. His abdomen was a bloody mess, his scales shattered. He glanced back at the Tiango clan's White Emperor. His right arm was completely crippled, and his pristine white robes were stained with blood. You think you can stop me? Even though the Black Dragon was also injured, he still looked ahead with a disdainful gaze. Die, all of you! Umph! At that moment, a cold snort exploded in his ears like a clap of thunder. The depths of his soul trembled. He wanted to move his feet, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't. He looked at the disc. This spiritual pressure, which he didn't even dare face directly, was coming from it. Emperor Yi. The people of the Beast Region also sensed the spiritual pressure. Smiles of relief appeared on their faces, but rumble. Muffled thunders came from the void. Under the heavy rain, the void was covered with dense, thunderclouds. Thick, ancient python-like purple thunder snakes flicked their tongues in the thunderclouds. Retreat. He's about to undergo tribulation. When he saw this, the White Emperor roared at the experts of the Beast region. The thunderclouds above their heads were no ordinary thunderclouds. They were the thunderclouds of divine tribulation. Divine lightning grew stronger according to the number of people within range. If they stayed, that would only harm Yizichin. Whoosh whoosh. When the Beast region experts heard this, they retreated from the thunderclouds. When they saw the purple pythons, they couldn't help but gulp. This lightning tribulation, that's not right. Didn't Emperor Yi undergo tribulation not long ago? Why is he undergoing tribulation again? Although he hadn't been there when Yizichin underwent tribulation in the Beast region, he'd heard about it. He'd already undergone tribulation once, so why was he undergoing tribulation again? If he had failed his tribulation, then why would his battle prowess be stronger than an ordinary celestial king? More importantly, that golden sword above his head, wasn't that a godhead? When this question was posed, even the White Emperor fell silent. Even with his knowledge and experience, he couldn't explain the scene before him. But he was certain that this was divine tribulation. Off in the distance, Black Dragon laughed uproariously. His sinister face was filled with mockery and playfulness. Tribulation, huh? Tribulation. The Beast experts locked their auras onto Black Dragon. Tribulation transcenders hated being disturbed the most. Even if they died, they couldn't let Black Dragon disrupt the tribulation. However, Black Dragon had no intention of interfering with Yizichin's tribulation. Next, they watched as his body grew to the size of a primordial god. He looked down on the ant-like Beast region experts. Chapter 991. Submission. The Shao family's lightning pool controlled tribulation. It could be said that this was the liveliest place in the Shao family. Here, one could see clansmen undergoing tribulation all day long. Thud, thud, thud. Hurried footsteps sounded from outside the pool. The next moment, the head of the Shao family, Shao Yin, hurriedly entered. How is this possible? On the way here, he'd been muttering the same thing the entire time. Just now, his subordinates had told him that the youth the former head had told them to keep an eye on was undergoing tribulation again. What shocked him even more was that the youth's godhead hadn't shattered. His father was the one who'd sent the lightning, and he'd seen it shatter with his own eyes. The youth had died on the spot after his godhead shattered. Could it be that Xianji had the ability to reconstruct his godhead and change his fate? Throughout the countless eras of history of the god race, something like this had never happened before. That was why he'd lost his composure. My lord, look. The youth holding the tome pointed at the lightning pool. Among the thousands of images, one of them was shockingly Yizichin, sitting atop a round disc and preparing to undergo tribulation. The double 8 levels formation. Xiaoyan arched his brows. The instant he saw Yizichin, he was sure it was the youth they'd met that day. Too much astonishment was beneath his dignity as head of the family. However, he was more concerned about the spiritual formation beneath Yizichin. Did someone from the Supreme Hall intervene? The double 8 levels formation referred to the 8 levels soul-locking formation and the 8 levels spirit-boosting formation. When they appear at the same time, the god race liked to call them the double 8 levels formation. The reason they mentioned the Supreme Hall was because all the supreme experts of the god race's spiritual formations resided there. No matter how he thought about it, only the Supreme Hall was capable of setting up the double 8 levels formation. Not only did this youth have the support of the profound pavilion, but even the Supreme Hall was secretly helping him. Even if the Shao family was one of the 8 great families of the god race, they'd have to reconsider. Should they try to take on this tough bone? The white-haired youth flipped through the pages. After a few breaths of time, he put the book down. In the past half-year, no one from the Supreme Hall has descended. The double 8 levels formation shouldn't be their doing. There's actually such a ridiculous thing. Xiaoyan's brows furrowed. He gently tapped the lightning rod by the lightning pool. I didn't expect there to be someone so skilled in formations who didn't enter the Supreme Hall. There was a reason for Xiaoyan's bewilderment. In truth, the power structure of the god race truly was complicated. If you wanted to survive in the god race, you'd generally seek a backer. For example, if one saw an almighty with the talent of a sage in the outside world, there was a 90% chance that he was from a sage family. It was the same for spiritual formation masters. They were usually people from the Supreme Hall. This was also the only way for similar people to gather together and communicate with each other. This way, their strength would increase even faster. There were very few who wanted to travel alone in the God race. It cannot be said that there were none, but it could only be said that such people were very rare. Now that the format of the God race and the three races have been fixed, going solo was no longer the popular mainstream here. Instead, it was a clash between forces. "My lord, how do you think we should deal with this youth?" That day, the old chief specifically warned us not to let this young man come to our place. The white-haired youth holding the tome frowned. Xiaoyan glanced coolly at Yi Zichen's reflection. "Just do what the old patriarch said that day." "What's that?" "Let it fall until he dies." He turned around indifferently and left the lightning pool. After a long time, a middle-aged man dressed in a white robe walked past the young man who was holding the book. "My lord, what did you say?" "Let it fall until he dies." The youth repeated Xiao Yan's words, then left the lightning pool. Rumble. Purple-red divine lightning fell from the sky with unstoppable force. To tell the truth, Yi Zichen truly despaired. He'd already lost count of how many bolts of lightning he'd struck. He knelt on the ground, bathed in blood, and hung his head. He tried several times to summon his strength to resist the tribulation, only to discover that he'd long since used up all his spiritual energy. He didn't even have a chance to catch his breath. Bolt after bolt of divine lightning fell. He did everything he could to endure the tribulation, but he really couldn't. The golden longsword kept circling around him. It actually didn't eat a single bolt of lightning this time. It was as if the lightning had hardened its heart to kill Yi Zichen. Even when his godhead actively tried to resist the lightning, it dodged, circled around, and landed on Yi Zichen's head. Boom! Another bolt of heavenly lightning fell. This time, Yi Zichen was using only his physical body to resist it. "You don't want me to go there that much?" Yi Zichen looked up at the sky. He laughed mockingly and wanted to point at the sky, but he didn't even have the strength to lift his arms. "Are you that afraid of me?" What answered him was a bolt of heavenly thunder without any reverberation. The power of thunder and lightning kept leaking out of his body. "Even if you're afraid of me, there's no need to treat me like this, is there? I've developed a phobia of heavenly tribulations. Every time I undergo tribulation, I'm gambling with my life. I can't afford to gamble with you. All right, I give up. I won't." Before he even finished speaking, Yi Zichen pressed a finger to his forehead. Pure spiritual energy flowed out from the center of his brows as he grinned. "I'm a scattered spirit, all right." Yet another bolt of heavenly lightning greeted him. "What the hell do you want?" After withstanding the lightning, Yi Zichen somehow found the strength to stand up, point at the clouds, and roar, "I've already scattered my spirit. I said I'm not going to undergo tribulation. I'm not a god anymore, all right? What the hell do you want?" Divine tribulation. For anyone, this was a fortuitous encounter. Yet, Yi Zichen had experienced it twice already. But to him, this wasn't a fortuitous encounter. They were sending him to his death. Yi Zichen chose to scatter his spirit not because he was scared, but because he still hadn't dealt with the problem in front of him. If he were alone, he would definitely face the tribulation head-on. At worst, he'd just die. But he couldn't die now. Boom! Yet another bolt of heavenly lightning greeted him. He accepted his fate. He'd already done this much, but they still wouldn't let him go. Even if he resisted, what could he do? They wanted his life, didn't they? Not to mention scattered spirit. Even if he crippled himself now, the heavenly lightning would still strike down. However, just as the heavenly lightning was about to strike him, he realized that the heavenly lightning actually changed its trajectory and fell to the side of him. Yi Zichen looked in the direction of the lightning and saw Xia Kiki, who was supposed to be making a sacrifice for the four-beast formation, was holding a bracelet in her hands. She was standing about 100 meters away from him. Chapter 992. I don't care. A few minutes ago, Yi Zichen sat on a round disc, soaked in blood. The overflowing spiritual pressure of the heavenly lightning also affected the sacred beast clansmen in the middle of setting up the four beast formation. Xia Kiki, who was in the four beast formation, looked up. When she saw Yi Zichen's situation, her expression immediately turned terrible. "Brother Zichen," Xia Kiki shouted frantically from within the formation. The other clansmen looked at the wheel as well, but their focus wasn't on Yi Zichen, who was undergoing tribulation. All of you, not far from Yi Zichen's disc, the Beast Region's experts had transformed into enormous black dragons. Even the unfathomable White Emperor had no choice but to avoid them. Judging from the current situation, their situation was not optimistic. "We need to hurry up." Xiao Da frowned. It was only a matter of time before Bai Di and the others were defeated. When the time came, the Black Dragon would bring the elites of the demon race over, and they would be annihilated. Brother Zichen, Xia Kix gazed past right through the Beast Region experts fighting a bloody battle against Black Dragon. There was only one person in the distance. Yi Zichen. "Kiki, don't just stand there." The four beast formation had to be of one mind, and Xia Kiki was one of the four people chosen by the Dragon Clan to stand in the center of the formation. Just now, all the spiritual power they passed over was repelled back. Sorry. What the Sacred Race clansmen didn't expect was that Xia Kiki, who was standing in the center of the spirit formation, actually bowed deeply towards them. She cut off her connection to the four beast formation and hurried over to Yi Zichen's location. "Big Brother Zichen, wait for me. I'm coming to save you." Xia Kiki bit her lip hard and sped towards Yi Zichen. Xiahua, who was tangling with Black Dragon, saw her, then glanced towards the four beast formation. "Coco." Sorry. Xia Kiki covered her ears to avoid Xiahua's angry rebuke. She knew that her actions might create an irreversible situation, but she couldn't bear to watch Yi Zichen die in front of her. "My lovely mount, you actually have the time to be distracted while fighting with me?" Bang! Black Dragon's arm swung viciously at Xiahua's body. Worried about the four beast formation, Xiahua fell heavily to the ground in the distance. The dragon scales on his body fell off, and fresh blood flowed from his wounds. "Cuckoo!" Xiahua, who had landed on the ground, stared at Xia Kiki. "Things will turn out this way. Kiki, your stubbornness has harmed everyone." Xia Kiki's shoulders couldn't stop trembling. Even though there was a huge explosion behind her, she didn't dare to look back. She simply covered her ears and apologized repeatedly, then rushed towards Yi Zichen. Boom! Just then, another bolt of lightning struck down from the void. Seeing this scene, Xia Kiki bit her lips and took out a bracelet from her bosom and held it in her hand. In an instant, surging spiritual energy poured into her body. She was only a sky immortal, but in just a few breaths, she had reached the strength needed to undergo the tribulation. "Come here." Xia Kiki, who was clutching the bracelet, bit her lips and shouted towards the sky. What made her pleasantly surprised was that the bolt of heavenly lightning actually landed on her. Oh, she had forcibly raised her power and had not refined it at all. On top of that, she had no idea how strong the lightning tribulation was, so she didn't put up any defenses for herself. Her only goal was to attract the heavenly lightning. She almost spat out a mouthful of blood, but she forcefully swallowed it. He suppressed the roiling blood in his chest, transformed into a golden dragon, and flew above Yi Zichen's head. Kiki. Earlier, when Yi Zichen saw Xia Kiki draw lightning for him, he was already somewhat confused. Who would have thought that she would actually block the top of her head? "Don't mess around. I'm going through a tribulation right now. It's not something you can handle. Hurry up and leave." "Big Brother Zichen, I'm undergoing tribulation too." Only then did Yi Zichen notice that Xia Kiki's current strength was actually on par with his. Passing the tribulation. How could she be undergoing tribulation? Moreover, she should be in the four beast formation now. Now that she was here, what about the four beast formation? However, the current situation didn't allow him to think too much. He shouted out for Xia Kiki's safety. "Even if you're going to undergo tribulation, don't do it here. If we do it together, the lightning's power won't be as simple as 1 + 1. Undergoing tribulation was heaven-defying to begin with. If two people underwent tribulation together, the heavens would be displeased. What's more, someone was maliciously controlling Yi Zichen's tribulation. If Yi Zichen underwent tribulation alone, they might not even have an excuse to fall to the 9th level. But now that Xia Kiki was here, they had an excuse. They might even use this excuse to send 100 bolts of lightning, 200 bolts. When that happened, it wouldn't be just him. Even Xia Kiki would die here with him. It's fine, don't worry. I'm a golden dragon of the dragon race. My defenses are pretty strong. Don't worry, little friend. Watch as Big Sister takes you through tribulation together. Xia Kiki replied in an extremely flippant tone, but before she could even finish speaking, a bolt of heavenly lightning struck her. It was just as Yi Zichen had said. If they underwent tribulation together, it wouldn't be as simple as 1 + 1. This bolt of lightning was several times thicker than the ones before. It was fast and fierce, and it landed squarely on Xia Kiki's back. Kiki. Lightning rained down on Xia Kiki's dragon body. After a long while, Yi Zichen finally heard Xia Kiki's relaxed tone. Do you see that? When Big Sister says I'll take it, I'll take it. Just wait here obediently. However, she wasn't as simple as she made it sound. Yi Zichen, who sat beneath her, clearly saw her golden scales fall off her body and a pool of dragon blood drip from her wounds. Kiki, stop messing around. Our tribulation isn't something you can withstand. Besides, why are you suddenly undergoing tribulation now? What about the 4-beast formation? Xia Kiki hovered above Yi Zichen's head in silence. After a while, she replied in a trembling voice. Chapter 993. Chapter 993. Destruction Boom. The divine tribulation didn't stop. Xia Kiki, who transformed into a golden dragon, hovered above Yi Zichen's head and used her dragon body to block the tribulation's bolts of heavenly lightning. Her scales fell from her body, and fresh blood flowed down her body. Roar! After enduring several bolts of heavenly lightning, Xia Kiki, who was hovering in the air, suddenly fell from the sky. She didn't know how powerful tribulation lightning was, but she couldn't deny that she couldn't take it anymore. Even though she was a golden dragon, after being baptized by several bolts of lightning, she couldn't take it anymore. The lightning poured into her body, numbing her senses and nerves. She couldn't take it anymore. Her consciousness gradually blurred, and her body was so numb that she couldn't control it any longer. Even so, just as she was about to land on top of Yi Zichen, she forcefully steadied herself through sheer willpower. She understood that she couldn't fall. Yi Zichen was right beneath her. She treated him like an infant in swaddling clothes, using her body to block the lightning for him. While she was falling, Yi Zichen was able to see Xia Kiki's injuries completely. 2 or 3 of her scales had fallen off. Without the protection of dragon scales, they were terrifying wounds. Blood flowed down along his torn flesh, and there were even charred spots around his torn flesh that were caused by the heavenly thunder. Kiki, don't continue. Yi Zichen painfully told her to come down. He really didn't know what on earth he had done to deserve so many people. There was no reason for them to treat him like this. Su Yun was like this, and so was Xia Kiki. I won't, roared Xia Kiki in golden dragon form. At that moment, another bolt of lightning fell from the sky. It seemed to be deliberately landing on her wounds. Roar! Xia Kiki, who'd been circling above Yi Zichen this entire time, suddenly landed on the disc formed of spiritual formation. However, as she landed, she intentionally twisted her body to avoid Yi Zichen. Bang! The golden dragon collided with the disc, and Xia Kiki returned to her human form. Her back was already soaked in blood, and her face was completely pale. She lay lifelessly on the disc, unmoving. Yi Zichen gnashed his teeth and crawled over to her. Kiki, Kiki! Yi Zichen called out Xia Kiki's name anxiously. When he saw the gaping wound on Xia Kiki's back, he continuously punched the disc. God race! The God race! Yi Zichen glared at the sky with bloodshot eyes. Please don't let me get the chance to go to the God realm. If I do, he must destroy the Shao family. It's really a tragic drama. A faint laughter rang out from the void. Not long after, the black dragon, which had turned into 100,000 feet long, grabbed the blue disk with both hands and revealed a huge head. Yi Zichen's heart trembled. If Black Dragon attacks us now, forget it. No matter what, he was going to die anyway. However, He Long didn't attack them. Instead, he looked at them with eyes the size of ordinary houses and smiled faintly. No matter how infatuated that girl is, I won't kill you for her sake. Besides, I have to thank her. If it weren't for her, I really don't know how to break the 4B's formation. Boom! At that moment, another bolt of heavenly lightning fell. Black Dragon glanced at it indifferently, then reached out and blocked it. TCH, it's not weak at all. I won't kill you here, but whether or not you can survive the divine tribulation will depend on your own luck. Right? Let me remind you, this divine tribulation is for 3 people now. Yi Zichen laughed mockingly, then turned to leave. His eyes flashed with an inexplicable light of despair. He wouldn't kill him. It wasn't that Black Dragon was arrogant. Rather, he planned it all out. There was no way they could survive the divine tribulation. Their previous divine tribulations had already left them in such a state. What's more, Black Dragon, a Sky Supreme who'd never experienced tribulation before, was joining them. Is this the end? Yi Zichen let out a weak groan as the golden longsword circled around him and trembled. I don't want to give up, but I don't have a choice now, do I? The golden longsword trembled violently once more, but Yi Zichen simply smiled at him, then looked up at the sky, which was already crashing down with lightning. This was the end. In the main hall of the profound pavilion, Xianji sat with a dark expression on her face. At this moment, a middle-aged man with a mustache walked in from outside the hall. Your Highness, gather everyone. As long as they're in the God world, tell them to return immediately. Xianji's face was filled with a terrifying, murderous aura. The mustache man frowned and said, What are you doing here? Your Highness, we're going to the Shao family. With that, Xianji disappeared from her seat. The mustache man remained in the hall, carefully savoring Xianji's words and tone. In an instant, an indescribably grave expression appeared on his face. Your Highness, is this a declaration of war? Thinking of this, the mustached man did not dare to delay. He took out a jade slip from his bosom and crushed it. The jade slip transformed into countless spiritual birds that circled around him. Then the mustached man said, Everyone's back. They're all back. Her Highness is fighting with the Shao family. As soon as he finished speaking, the spirit birds around him all burrowed into the spatial gaps and disappeared. He also frowned and lightly tapped his finger, disappearing from the main hall. That silly girl, how dare she? Xianji stood in the air, her face filled with worry. Although she'd already returned to the God realm, her concern for Xia Kiki hadn't lessened in the slightest. Just now, she'd actually seen Xia Kiki resist Yi Zichen's divine tribulation. Was that something she could resist? Forcefully raising her spiritual power to the point of tribulation? That bracelet wasn't meant for her to use. Who dares take to the skies in the capital? Hurry up in. When the Imperial Guards saw the newcomer's face, they forcefully swallowed the words at the tip of their tongues. Then, they heard Xianji's furious rebuke. Scram! The guards swallowed and retreated to the side. Only after Xianji had gone far away did the guards pat their chests and speak with lingering fear in their hearts. We almost lost our lives. The other royal guards nodded in agreement. We were so close. Look at that murderous aura. I wonder who it was that dared provoke her. Chapter 994. Begging? The Imperial Shao family. When the Imperial Guard said this, the other Imperial Guards froze. Could it be? Just as one of the guards was about to speak, the person next to him covered his mouth and spoke in a low voice with a sinister look on his face. Do you want to die? The Imperial Guard gulped, then heard the other guard say, Hurry up and notify the God Emperor. Hurry up and notify the God Emperor. Lady Providence and Emperor Zhao's affairs aren't something we can interfere with. Royal City. The Imperial Shao family, a family that had existed since the beginning of the God realm, was located in the western part of Royal City. Their manor occupied an area of 1,000,000 acres, and their gates were extravagantly decorated. Two imposing statues of thunder lions stood in front of the gates. The words Shao family, written on their gilded signboard, had been personally bestowed by the God Emperor. It was a place of boundless glory and splendor. Boom! A beautiful figure suddenly landed in front of his house. When she landed, she even shattered the tiles in front of his house. Who dares act so impudently in front of the Shao family? The guards in front of the residence scolded them arrogantly. Although they were mere guards of the Shao family, even high officials and dignitaries had to be polite to them when they encountered them. In ancient times, even a prime minister and a soldier of the central government were considered ninth-rank officials. They were imperial Shao family guards, so their status wasn't low either. In the past, if they'd run into someone like this, it meant they'd earn some money. As long as they scolded them a little and made things difficult for them, they'd easily rake in tens of thousands of shinbi. But this time, they'd run into a tough opponent. Dong, the guard who'd just spoken, sensed a wave of energy attack him. The guards were the face of the Shao family. Although they were arrogant, they still had some strength. Shao Chun dodged to the side, but the energy landed on the gate of the Shao family's mansion, smashing it into pieces. How dare you? How dare you attack someone in the Shao family and destroy their gates? It seemed this person was tired of living. At that moment, he felt someone tug at him. Then he saw his brothers kneeling on the ground. At this moment, he finally saw the face of the person in front of the mansion. Thud! The domineering guard's knees buckled, and he knelt to the ground. Greetings. Greetings, Lady Providence. Greetings, Lady Providence. He really wanted to slap himself in the face a few times. Just who had given him the gall to speak to Lady Providence of the profound pavilion like that? Tell Xiao Yin to come see me. Xuanji had important matters to attend to, so he couldn't be bothered to bicker with these people. Just as the guards were about to go look for Xiao Yin, he saw a youth carrying ancient tomes by Xiao Yan's side. When he saw the guards kneeling on the ground and the broken gate, he frowned unhappily. How could he, a guard of the Shao family, kneel to someone from the profound pavilion? Even if the God Emperor came, they would have to stand with their backs straight, much less a mere Xianji. As for the gate, it was the face of the Shao family. If Xianji destroyed it just like that, wasn't that a slap in the face to the Shao family? Lady Xianji, you really have quite the temper, but why did you come to the Shao family to vent your anger? What, does the Empress think that my Shao family is easy to bully? The former head of the Shao family, Shao Ting, no longer cared about worldly affairs. Now that Xiao Yin was the head of the Shao family, he had to act tough. Xiao Yin, you've come just in time. I've come to ask you to do something for me. Ask you to do it. Her tone brooked no argument. She'd always done things this way. If she wanted someone to do something, that person had to do it. Even if the Shao family was an imperial clan, it was the same. There was no way she was going to negotiate with them. Lady Providence, this isn't your profound pavilion. This is the Shao family, an imperial clan. Watch your words. Xiao Yin narrowed his eyes and snorted, refusing to budge an inch. But it's rare for you to ask someone to do something for you. For the sake of the God Emperor, I'll give you some face. Then, please tell me what you'd like my Shao family to do. Ask. Xuanji sneered, but she didn't explain. Your clan is currently undergoing divine tribulation, right? In that case, a girl named Xia Kiki should be undergoing tribulation right now. I demand that you immediately wipe away her god realm. Lady Providence, since when did my Shao family's tribulation become your concern? You've gone too far, haven't you? Xiao Yin smiled calmly in response. Although this was just an ordinary conversation, this was a contest of face between two factions. If he replied weakly, he'd lose face for the Shao family. Wipe it away or not. Xianji narrowed her eyes. Whoosh. At that moment, the mustached man who'd appeared in the profound pavilion's main hall appeared as well. As soon as he landed, he sensed that something was wrong, and his heart began to pound wildly. He'd guessed right. The Empress really was going to cause trouble for the imperial clans. In the end, Xianji was still slightly superior in terms of aura. Xiao Yin had only recently become head of the Shao family. Compared to someone like Xianji, who'd been famous for a long time, he was still a bit immature. But how could he allow himself to be defeated in front of so many of his clansmen? Xianji, if you're asking for help, you should look like you're asking for help. If you talk nicely, I can wipe away that person's divine tribulation for you. It's just divine tribulation. Whether to wipe it away or not is up to us to decide. However, what I want is your attitude. Xiaoyan thought his words were very unyielding, but little did he know that his answer had already fallen into disarray. Ask for help. I couldn't be bothered to talk to you before, but I didn't think you'd be so insistent. I'm afraid you're overthinking things. Where did you get the idea that I'm asking for help? A faint smile surfaced on Xianji's face as she spoke in a tone that left no room for doubt. I'm asking you to wipe it away, understand? Even if you don't wanna, you have to wipe away this divine tribulation. Impudent. Xiaoyan, who'd been calm all this time, finally revealed his anger. Xianji, don't go too far. I'm giving you face, but don't push your luck. I'm telling you right now, you can't wipe away this divine tribulation. Is that so? Xianji shook her head disdainfully when she saw Xiaoyan's furious expression. It's such a pity that the position of head of the family was passed on to you. If your sister were here, she'd do 10,000 times better than you. I know you want to establish your authority in front of your clansmen, but bearing isn't determined by whose voice is louder. I don't need you to tell me that, snorted Xiaoyan. Of course I don't care about you. Even if someone has to discipline you, it should be the Lightning Emperor. Xianji smiled playfully, then took a step back. At this moment, there was a continuous stream of people flying through the air above the capital city, landing behind her. In an instant, several hundred people from the profound pavilion who had come to inquire about her appeared behind her. Chapter 995. Force your Y. As soon as she spoke, the members of the profound pavilion mobilized their divine power. Boundless auras converged on the Xiao family and bore down on them. Lady Xianji, you must think this through. This is the Xiao family. Xiaoyan's expression froze. His meaning was clear. This was the Xiao family's territory. In terms of manpower, the Xiao family wasn't afraid of them. The Xiao family members, who'd long since sensed something was wrong, gathered behind Xiaoyan. The Xiao family's glory was inviolable. If they wanted to attack the Xiao family's lightning pool, not even the God Emperor would be able to. Swords were drawn. Boundless auras clashed fiercely in the sky. Before long, the people of the capital noticed what was happening with the Xiao family. Look, someone's causing trouble for the Xiao family. The Xiao family stood at the pinnacle of the god race's pyramid. Although they usually conducted themselves fairly well, their guards were rather domineering. However, it wasn't easy to watch someone cause trouble for the Xiao family. The citizens of the capital were more than happy to watch the show. Just who's so blind as to dare cause trouble for the Xiao family? Some people in the crowd said similar things. The Xiao family had existed for countless eras, and its power was deeply rooted. They controlled the lightning pool of all races. Even the God Emperor had to give them face when he visited. Finding trouble with the Xiao family was simply courting death. Hey, look, isn't that the profound pavilion's Lady Xianji? Behind her stands the Xianji 16 generals. A sharp-eyed person pointed it out and immediately turned to look. It really is her. When he said this, even he couldn't quite believe it himself. Look at that mustachioed man. Isn't that Mr. 8 Characters, who's always by Lady Xianji's side? And that brawny red-haired man, isn't that the god of strength? Really? Some people in the crowd didn't believe him. After all, the profound pavilion and the Xiao family were two major factions in the capital. All along, these two forces had never interfered with each other. Why did they suddenly start fighting? Quite a few people couldn't help but shuffle forward to confirm whether or not the profound pavilion was really causing trouble for the Xiao family. When they ascertained that it was the profound pavilion, a boom went off in their heads. Was the world going to change? News of the mysterious pavilion taking the initiative to provoke the Xiao family instantly spread. In less than a quarter of an hour, a large crowd had gathered near the Xiao family. A direct clash between two peak-level forces might only happen once in their lives. Why aren't they fighting yet? One of the onlookers spoke up, But before he could finish a sentence, he heard someone next to him say, in disdain, "Do you think it's a fight between two kids?" These are two forces that represent the two peak powers of the royal capital. Fight! Do you think it's so easy to fight? The surrounding people all nodded in agreement, causing the person who was reprimanding to remain silent. However, he was not the only one. Many people present were clenching their fists and shouting for them to hurry up and fight. "Your Highness, have you thought it through?" As he watched more and more people gather behind him, Xiaoyan regained his confidence and smiled calmly. He was betting that Xianji wouldn't dare attack the Xiao family. No matter what, the Xiao family was an imperial family. Even the God Emperor had to give them some face. Furthermore, he had far more people than the profound pavilion. If they fought, the Xiao family would definitely have the upper hand. Right now, he was just waiting for Xianji to admit defeat. When the time came, he'd be the first person in history to make Xianji admit defeat. He'd gained face and prestige. But he was wrong. If it were anyone else, they might actually admit defeat, but the one standing before him was the profound pavilion's Lady Providence. "OL5, you can break it, right?" Xianji retreated a few steps, then stopped next to a bare-chested, red-haired man in black shorts. The God of Strength. He was one of Xianji's 16 divine generals. His strength was far greater than that of the Yao race's barbarian bull clan. "Big sister, are you really going to attack the Xiao family? Do you want me to admit defeat?" Xianji glanced at him coolly. "Of course not," said the 2-meter-tall God of Strength with a disdainful laugh. "The puny Xiao family isn't worthy of making you admit defeat. Then what nonsense are you blabbering about? Break down their gates." Xianji pointed at the Xiao family's gates. The God of Strength nodded and took a step forward. Boundless divine power poured out of his body, and his arms, already as thick as a person's thighs, instantly swelled to the thickness of a man's waist. "Xianji, how dare you?" Xiaoyan was a loss. He never would have guessed that Xianji would actually dare attack the Xiao family in the capital. "I wouldn't dare. Why wouldn't I dare? OL5, don't listen to his bullshit. Tear down the gates." Xianji crossed her arms and snorted like a gangster boss. The God of Strength didn't hesitate either. He punched. Boom! The gates collapsed. The Xiao family's towering gates were smashed to smithereens by the God of Strength's punch. The surrounding walls collapsed as well, and the plaque the God Emperor had bestowed upon them crashed to the ground. Xiaoyan barely dodged the God of Strength's punch. When he saw the destroyed gates and walls, his expression was as dark as still water. She really dared. Attack the Xiao family's lightning pit. After destroying the gates, Xianji didn't hesitate at all. She shouted at her subordinates, and they all charged towards the Xiao family's lightning pit as if they'd been injected with chicken blood. Stop them. Xiaoyan didn't even need to give the order. The Xiao family had already begun fighting the profound pavilion. Holy shit, they're really fighting. How exciting. They're both too irrational. How can these two peak-level factions actually fight? As the Xiao family in profound pavilion clashed, the onlookers finally began to cry out in the depths of their hearts. Some of them just wanted to watch the show, but of course, there were also rational people who thought the Xiao family in profound pavilion lacked consideration. But no matter what they thought, the profound pavilion and the Xiao family were fighting. Lady Providence, are we being a little too of the profound pavilion's people? Only the mustached man didn't go up. Not only did he not attack, but he even ran over to Xianji's side to try and comfort her. The God Emperor is in the capital. I'll fight whoever I want. Why are you just standing there? Hurry up and fight. Lady Providence. Mr. 8 Characters was one of the more rational people. He was loyal to Xianji, but that didn't mean he supported her every command. Moreover, their profound pavilion did indeed need a rational person like him to exist. However, Xianji didn't give him a chance to think rationally. HM, then I think you're asking for a beating. She glanced at him coolly, but the mustached man instantly swallowed his words. He rolled up his sleeves, put his hands on his hips, and cursed angrily at the Xiao family. Chapter 996. The Veiled Woman. Even though Xianji's subordinates were far inferior to the Xiao families, they were like tigers and wolves. Her 16 divine generals, in particular, viewed the Shao family as nothing. No one dared to stop them. Xianji, are you declaring war on the Shao family? Xiaoyan stood about 5 meters away from Xianji. As he listened to the rumbling in the courtyard, his shoulders trembled uncontrollably. His expression was as dark as still water. An indifferent smile appeared on Xianji's face. She shrugged and arched her brows. Is this a declaration of war? I'm already attacking your Shao family. Then don't blame me for not remembering our past friendship. Crackle. Thick thunderclouds suddenly appeared in the clear sky, and purple lightning surged in the thunderclouds. Boom! In an instant, Xiaoyan's half-step ruler strength burst forth from his body. He'd become head of the Shao family not only because he was the Thunder Emperor's only son, but also because he possessed absolute power. No one dared defy him. If you set aside Xiaoyan's indecisive personality, he could actually be considered a legend among the god race. His mother had been pregnant with him for 3 years. When she was born, she was well-versed in astronomy, geography, and the arts of divination. He became an immortal at 9 and a god at 15. His strength had risen to unprecedented heights. If the Four Directions Palace found a new freak, his record would remain unbroken. Now, he was the closest to becoming a ruler among the younger generation. It could be said that he'd been the center of attention for his entire life. Half-step ruler. Among the younger generation, you're the most dazzling, but in the end, you're still only half a step. Boom! Xianji released spiritual pressure several times stronger than Xiaoyan's. Everything within 10,000 kilometers was enveloped by her might. The distant onlookers' eyelids twitched when they sensed this spiritual pressure. Was this the power of a peak-level faction? When Xianji's spiritual pressure appeared, Xiaoyan couldn't help but take a step back. He was indeed a half-step ruler, but just as Xianji said, a half-step ruler was still only half a step. Given your current state, you're not fit to be my opponent. I don't want to bully the weak. Let Lei Ting come. Who knows, he might be able to exchange a few blows with me. She arched her brows disdainfully at Xiaoyan, but to Xiaoyan, this was an enormous insult. Now that I'm in charge of the Shao family, there's no need for father to show up personally. Ruler, this emperor also wants to see just how big the gap is between a half-step ruler and a true ruler. As soon as he finished speaking, the heavenly lightning in the sky rumbled down. Several lightning snakes appeared around Xiaoyan, and the illusory image of an ancient god of thunder wielding a giant hammer appeared behind him. Then go ahead and try. Xianji didn't even put up the most basic of defenses. In the face of Xiaoyan's all-out attack, she stretched lazily and patted her yawning mouth. Stop! A veiled woman in a white dress floated down from the sky. She stood between Xianji and Xiaoyan. Hey, who is that person? Some of the onlookers with sharp eyes noticed the woman and pointed at the people around them. The others also looked over, but they all shook their heads, indicating that they had never seen it before. She actually dared to persuade the Shao family to fight with the profound pavilion. This woman's status is definitely not low, someone in the crowd said. Could it be Her Highness Lu Qing of the Four Directions Palace? Someone else asked, but his words were immediately rejected by the others. Stop bullshitting. Her Highness Lu Qing belongs to the Four Directions Palace. Why would she come to the royal capital to persuade the two families to fight? Besides, I've never heard of Her Highness Lu Qing interacting with either faction. If you're talking about the Lord of Seven Stars, that's possible. Rumor has it that the Lord of Seven Stars has a close relationship with Lady Providence. Everyone had their own opinions. In the minds of the onlookers, this woman had a different identity. However, no matter what they guessed, at least her appearance stopped Xianji and Xiaoyan from fighting. I didn't expect to see you here so soon. Xianji crossed her arms and smiled calmly. The veiled woman nodded at her. Forget it, I'll give you face. After a brief moment of hesitation, Xianji sent a transmission to the members of the profound pavilion in her sea of consciousness. Before long, the profound pavilion retreated from the Shao family and stood behind her. As they retreated, the people of the Shao family chased after them aggressively. However, Anyone with a discerning eye could see that the Xiao family had suffered a huge loss. Stop! Xiao Yin waved his hand and calmed his clansmen down, then frowned at the woman. Sis, why are you here? Xiao Yin couldn't expose the woman's identity, so he could only secretly transmit to the veiled woman. Xianji knows you. Have you met before? Xiao Yin, don't spout nonsense. A reprimanding voice rang out in Xiao Yan's sea of consciousness. You were far too reckless this time. Do you know the profound pavilion status? Do you know the Xiao family's status? How dare you start a fight like a commoner? Have you ever thought about the impact this will have on the Xiao family? What about the future harmony between our two factions? She did it, snorted Xiao Yan. It takes two hands to clap. Don't try to quibble. The veiled woman shook her head calmly at Xiao Yan. Fortunately, I arrived in time. If I'd arrived just a little later, and the profound pavilion really did manage to break into the lightning pool, the prestige our Xiao family has built up over tens of millions of years would have been destroyed by your hands. How could he possibly have broken in? Said Xiao Yin unhappily. You're still putting on a brave front? Sighed the veiled woman. Haven't you witnessed the power of the 16 divine generals? Forget it. I can't be bothered to talk to you anymore. You're the head of the Xiao family now. You have to use your head a little more. I know you're desperate to prove yourself, but I'm afraid you've chosen the wrong opponent to go up against a colossus like the profound pavilion. With that, the veiled woman bowed to Xianji once more. Senior, please don't take offense if I've offended you in any way. The Xiao family and the profound pavilion are two major factions under the God Emperor's command. His Excellency is the God Emperor's to worry about when we fight each other. Let's just forget about this. See, that's the attitude you should have when dealing with a problem, said Xianji, rolling her eyes at Xiao Yan. Xianji rolled her eyes at Xiao Yan. At the same time, she said to the veiled woman, For your sake, I won't attack the lightning pool by force. If I accidentally break through, your Xiao family won't be able to keep face. Senior, you jest. Even if you called in the entire profound pavilion, they wouldn't be able to break in. You know that, don't you? The veiled woman pursed her lips and smiled calmly, then changed the subject. Let's not talk about this anymore. Senior, why exactly have you come here? I want your Xiao family to help me erase someone's divine tribulation. But since you're here as well, I'll be frank with you. In truth, Yi Zichen is undergoing tribulation at the same time as the person I want to erase his divine tribulation with. The veiled woman's arms instantly trembled. Then she turned, frowned, and roared, To the lightning pool! To the lightning pool! Chapter 997. Chapter 997. End of divine tribulation. The veil obscured the woman's expression, but from her steps, it was clear how anxious she was. The Xiao family clansmen who'd brought them here were astonished. The Xiao family's lightning pool was a secret location. Outsiders didn't know its exact location, but the veiled woman was familiar with the place. It was obvious she'd been here many times before. Although he was astonished, he could only obediently lead the way for them. TCH, TCH, TCH. The Xiao family's lightning pool sure is well hidden. It wasn't just Xiao Yan. Xianji followed them in as well. She'd been in the royal capital for so long, but to tell the truth, this was her first time inside the Xiao family's compound. Senior, please don't tell anyone else. We brought you here as a sign of our Xiao family's sincerity, said the veiled woman indifferently. Xianji chuckled. I naturally won't tell anyone. Naturally, I won't tell anyone about this. But since I know where the lightning pools are, I'll have a better route to take next time to attack them. Xianji. Xiao Yan furrowed his brows. Xiao Yan, shut up. The veiled woman pressed Xiao Yan down, then smiled and replied, Senior, you really like to joke. But if you really want to attack the Xiao family's lightning pool, I advise you to give up on that idea. I'm just saying, Xianji wasn't stupid. The Xiao family had towered over the god realm for millions of years without falling. Everyone had to be wary of their resources. Perhaps one of the Xiao family's elders was near the lightning pool. Attack the lightning pool. She was just saying. The veiled woman smiled and nodded at her. At that moment, a middle-aged man walked out of the hidden lightning pool. My lord, Judging from his expression, he'd clearly just finished his tribulation. The youth holding the ancient scriptures by Xiao Yan's side arched his brows when he saw him. "Why did you come out?" The youth's question startled the clansman. Then he saw that the profound pavilion's Lady Providence had also come to the lightning pool. "The tribulation's over." "What's going on?" "It's over." The youth covered the middle-aged man's mouth, smiled apologetically at Xianji, then dragged the man to the side. "What is it?" The middle-aged man was also a little confused. Why did the lightning tribulation come for him? What's going on? Why are people from the profound pavilion here? Isn't this our secret land? Also, who is that veiled woman? What's going on? You don't have to worry about that. I just want to ask you, have you finished your lightning tribulation? Asked the tome youth with a frown. Yes, they're all done. There's a total of 99 bolts of lightning, none missing. However, when that brat was facing his tribulation, a dragon actually joined in. Later on, a demon also joined in. Demon race? The youth was stunned for a moment before he recovered and asked, "Then let me ask you, what's the current situation of the Dragon Clan? Is it dead or—" "He's dead." The middle-aged man raised his eyebrows and said, "Didn't you say that it would stop until that kid dies? That dragon has been blocking the lightning for that brat. If I were to be struck to death by that brat, the prerequisite is that I have to be killed by someone from the Dragon Clan." As soon as he finished speaking, the middle-aged man's expression suddenly turned serious. "Hey, that veiled woman isn't a member of the Dragon Clan, is she?" "She." After learning that the middle-aged man had killed a dragon, the tome youth clenched his fists and sighed repeatedly. Then he pointed at the middle-aged man and frowned. "You're in big trouble now." "It can't be. I was right. The people from the Dragon Clan have really come to ask for him?" The middle-aged man's eyes widened. "That dragon's bloodline is pretty pure. A golden dragon. Back then, I was wondering whether or not to kill her. Why did a dragon come to the capital?" "No, I'm working for your Xiao family. You have to guarantee my safety." The middle-aged man was a bit flustered. He'd just come to earn some extra income. How had he offended a dragon? In truth, the tome youth had found this man from the outside. Yi Zichen had the profound pavilion support, so as Xiao Yan's advisor, he naturally had to consider all aspects of the situation. In order to leave a way out, he'd specially found this middle-aged man to oversee the lightning tribulation. Even if the profound pavilion really did come looking for the Xiao family, all they had to do was push the blame onto the middle-aged man. Even if the profound pavilion was angry, they'd have no choice but to swallow their anger out of consideration for the Xiao family status. However, just now, when the profound pavilion attacked the Xiao family, the tome youth could tell. He had a temper. Even if he pushed the middle-aged man out of the way, it would be absolutely useless. "Hey kid, I'm just here to earn some wine money. Don't screw me over." All right. The tome youth frowned, took out a bag of Shinbi, and tossed it to the middle-aged man. "Take this money and run. Also, you can't tell anyone that I came looking for you." The middle-aged man weighed the bag in his hand, then smiled, revealing 8 teeth. "No problem, Lilji." At that moment, Xiao Yan's voice rang out from behind them. The tome youth turned around and replied. He patted the middle-aged man on the shoulder, smiled, and ran over. "My lord," Xiao Yan frowned, then glanced at the tome youth and the middle-aged man who'd left in a hurry. "How come I've never seen that person before? Is he from the Xiao family?" The tome youth laughed awkwardly, then tapped the tome in his hands, his eyes flashing. "My lord, that person isn't from the Xiao family. I hired him from somewhere else. There were some things he couldn't say in front of others, so he could only transmit to Xiao Yan." When he heard this, Xiao Yan frowned. "Who gave you the guts? What kind of place was this?" "The Xiao family's forbidden lightning pool." Lil Ji had actually dared to hire someone from the outside, and he was wearing the uniform of one of the Xiao family's lightning-wielding cultivators? "My lord, I've thoroughly investigated this person's background. As for the other details, I'll explain them to you later. But right now, there's a problem. The lightning tribulation of the person Xianji wants to protect has already ended. That person underwent tribulation with the youth the old emperor forbade from entering the god realm. Then doesn't that mean—" "Yes, that middle-aged man told me." That dragon is already dead, the tome youth transmitted solemnly. Xiaoyan frowned and said nothing for a long while. When the tome youth saw this, he couldn't help but shake his head inwardly. It wasn't a good choice to be the advisor of such a monarch. He sighed inwardly. He didn't wait for Xiaoyan's reply. Instead, he spoke according to what he considered. You're all here for the divine tribulation, aren't you? Then I'm afraid we came here for nothing. The divine tribulation is already over. Say that again. Xianji's expression instantly darkened. A majestic aura emanated from her body and bore down on the tome youth. When he sensed Xianji's spiritual pressure, a hint of sadness appeared on the youth's face. However, he maintained his smile, ignoring the sweat dripping down his face. Chapter 998. And me rumble. Like a purple thunder dragon, the heavenly thunder roared down from the sky. From the momentum of its descent, it could be felt that it wanted to finish him off here and now. 3 waves of tribulation lightning. Yi Zichen didn't dare imagine how powerful 3 waves of tribulation lightning would be. He didn't want to think about it either. He really wanted to give up. However, deep in his heart, he was still conflicted. He didn't know why, but this bolt of heavenly lightning seemed to fall much slower than the previous ones. As the bolt of lightning descended, countless images flashed through Yi Zichen's mind. There was sweetness, bitterness, anger, and disappointment. He'd carefully cut his way through all the obstacles to get here. It seemed he'd really reached the end. I've hurt Kiki. His gaze landed on Xia Kiki, who was not too far away. From the beginning to the end, this little girl had always stood by his side unwaveringly. She was always the most worry-free, but she was also the most heartbreaking. Yi Zichen wasn't an idiot. He could feel Xia Kiki's love for him. However, he didn't dare respond. All he got in return was Xia Kiki's sacrifice. Until now, she was still the same. I've hurt you. Yi Zichen reached out and wiped her cheek, then struggled to move his body and hug her. Let me make it up to you a little. However, the instant he hugged her, Kiki, who'd been sprawled on the ground and unable to move, somehow found the strength to push him away. I won't let big brother Zichen die. Her pretty face was filled with determination. When Yi Zichen saw her gaze, his heart shrank. Don't! Xia Kiki, covered in blood, crawled shakily to her feet, then leapt into the air. Kiki! Yi Zichen reached out with his right hand. He really wanted to drag Kiki back, but he couldn't. But he couldn't do it. He could only watch as the purple lightning dragon devoured Xia Kiki. His mind was fixated on Xia Kiki's blood-covered face and her peaceful smile as she looked at him. His ears echoed with her slightly trembling yet blissful words. I'm so lucky. I've loved you for a long, long time. The golden dragon roared. Xia Kiki, in her golden dragon form, looked longingly down at Yi Zichen. Her eyes flashed with determination as she charged viciously at the lightning dragon. Boom! The 2 dragons crossed each other. No! Yi Zichen reached out with his right hand and roared in rage. He watched helplessly as the incoming golden dragon was swallowed up by the lightning dragons in the sky. The blinding white light faded. When Yi Zichen came back to his senses, Xia Kiki, who had turned into a golden dragon, had already disappeared. Kiki, that was impossible. Could it be that Kiki's soul was destroyed by the heavenly lightning? Yi Zichen slumped back into the disc in a daze, but the bolt of purple lightning hadn't dissipated yet. It continued to descend upon him. Boom! Purple light dazzled the world. When the purple light appeared, both Black Dragon and the Beast Region experts covered their eyes with their hands. In the face of such blinding light, there was no way they could ignore it. When the purple light faded, the Beast Region experts saw that the disk in the sky had completely disappeared. Yi Zichen, who'd been sitting on it this entire time, had naturally disappeared with it. Emperor Yi. The Beast Region experts' eyes widened in shock. Just as they were in a daze, a gust of wind swept past them. Ugh! The Beast Region experts coughed up a mouthful of blood and fell to the ground. At that moment, they saw Black Dragon twist his neck, throw his head back, and laugh arrogantly. At this moment, there was no one who could stop him. Kiki. Above Dragon City, tears streamed down Xiangda's face. He'd personally witnessed Xia Kiki being swallowed up by heavenly lightning. He didn't want to stand on the moral high ground and criticize her for her irresponsibility. Right now, all he wanted to express was the pain of a father watching his daughter die to lightning tribulation. The other sacred beast clansmen were indifferent. They felt sorry for Kiki and mourned for all the suffering she'd endured. However, none of this could make up for her irresponsible departure and the destruction of the Four Beast Formation. If the destruction of the Four Beast Formation really did lead to the destruction of the three realms, then Xia Kiki would forever be a sinner in their hearts. Big brother, don't be sad. Xia Yingqiu stepped forward and reached out to comfort him. Xia Kiki's death pained him just as much, but even if she died, they still had a future to live for. Even if Yi Zichen perished in the divine tribulation, they had to live on, struggling at death's door. Only by living could they have hope. The current problem is grave, said a black tortoise. Said a black tortoise. Even though Xia Kiki blocked tribulation lightning for Emperor Yi, there's no way to erase her irresponsibility. Besides, Emperor Yi perished during his tribulation. What should we do now? The demons are watching us like tigers eyeing their prey, and Black Dragon is invincible. Our only hope was the Four Beast Formation, but you dragons buried it at our hands, said a white tiger. Enough. Xiaoyingda, who was already immersed in the pain of losing his daughter, shouted with bloodshot eyes, Kiki is already dead. The dead should be respected. Even if she was in the wrong when she was alive, shouldn't you all shut up now? But can you say she had nothing to do with the Four Beast Formation's destruction? Shouted a white tiger. So what if it dies prematurely? Emperor Yi has already perished in the lightning tribulation. Even if the Four Beast Formation really does turtle up for 100 years, won't the result be the same? Xiaoyingda's lips curled into a disdainful smile. Do you really think a miracle will happen in 100 years? That any of your clans could produce a peerless genius capable of killing Black Dragon in just 100 years? The Four Beast Formation was built on the assumption that Emperor Yi was still alive. He was trapped in the lightning tribulation, and Kiki went to save him. I don't think my daughter did anything wrong. On the other hand, all you talk about is benevolence, righteousness, and morality, but now you're pushing all the blame on my daughter. Isn't that ridiculous? Xiaoyingda, what, you want to fight? Xiaoyingda glared at him. I'm telling you, I'm not afraid of you. If you have the guts, come at me. Enough. At that moment, an elder of the Vermilion Bird clan stepped forward and pushed Xiaoyingda and the white tiger aside. Xiaoyingda's right. That girl's choice might have been very capricious, but if she could save Emperor Yi, it wouldn't be considered a mistake. Everyone can see the current situation. Even though Emperor Yi is no longer here, the Four Beast Formation is still our only hope of turning the tables. Even if the chances are slim, we still have to hold on to it. Yingqiu, does your dragon clan have any pure-blooded clansmen? Find them, and perhaps the Four Beast Formation will still work. This, Xiao Yingqiu furrowed his brows. Everyone can see it too. That girl Kiki is here. If there really were, there's no way my father would let her come. That's a bit troublesome. The elder of the Vermilion Bird clan frowned. However, at that moment, a beam of golden light flashed before their eyes. An old man with grizzled temples appeared between them. Chapter 999. A true traitor great-grandfather. When the old man appeared, Xiaoyingda's face instantly filled with astonishment. Patriarch, the rest of the Sacred Race clansmen didn't dare to be negligent. Most of them were from the same generation as Xiaoyingda, and only a few were a generation older than him. However, Xiaoyingda had addressed this elder as great-grandfather, so they were naturally juniors in front of this elder. It was Xia Dong, the one the dragon god had sent to clean up the dragon race's blood pool. His murky eyes were as sharp as swords as they rested on Xia Yingqiu's face for a moment. What? Are you surprised that I'm here? As soon as he finished speaking, he pursed his lips and snorted. You'll definitely be surprised, right, Lil Yingqiu? Great-grandfather, what do you mean by that? Yingqiu doesn't understand. Xia Yingqiu's expression didn't change. He smiled modestly and politely. There's just one thing I don't know. Great-grandfather, Your bloodline doesn't seem to be a golden dragon. He opened his palm and made a cut on it with his finger. Golden blood flowed out of the wound. When they saw this, Xia Yingqiu and Xia Yingda couldn't help but stare in shock. Golden blood. Senior, it's great that you have the golden dragon bloodline. Since we're all here, let's set up the formation as soon as possible while the silhouettes of the four sacred clans have yet to dissipate. Xia Dong nodded noncommittally. However, Xia Yingqiu furrowed his brows and said, "Don't worry, I'll be fine. The problem between you and the devil race is still unclear. How do you expect us to believe you?" Yingqiu. Xia Yingda grabbed him and stared at him with a confused look in his eyes. "Brother, don't pull me." Xia Yingqiu shook off Xia Yingda's hand and snorted. He was already suspected of colluding with the demons. The old dragon's divine intent only sent him to the dragon race's blood pool to repent because of his contributions to the dragon race. Elder brother, you should know that he only had the Azure Dragon bloodline, not the Golden Dragon bloodline. We don't know where his bloodline came from. What if he sets us up while we're setting up the formation? Shut up, brother. Pa. He slapped Xia Yingqiu across the face, then glared at Xia Yingda and roared angrily. I told you to shut up. Regardless of whether or not Xia Dong had colluded with the demons, such a shameful matter couldn't be discussed in front of outsiders. Moreover, it didn't matter where Xia Dong's bloodline had come from. His appearance proved that he had nothing to do with the demon race. If there really was, then there was no need for him to come here. As long as he didn't appear, there would never be enough Golden Dragon clansmen, and the Four Beast formation would never be set up. In his opinion, his younger brother shouldn't be so confused. Forget it. Xia Dong stretched out a hand to stop him. Since Yingqiu has put it this way, this old dragon can only explain things in order to dispel the ill feelings in everyone's hearts. This golden dragon bloodline was bestowed upon me by the dragon god, and I came here under senior dragon god's orders. Do you think we'll believe you? Believe it or not, it's up to you. With that, Xia Dong walked over to where Xia Kiki had been. The sacred race projection beneath his feet glowed faintly. The other sacred race clansmen glanced at each other, but didn't ask any more questions. They returned to their respective positions. None of them were idiots. If Xia Dong really was colluding with the demons, there was no need for him to come here. When he saw the others return to their positions, Xia Yingqiu's expression shifted. He gritted his teeth and returned to his original position. However, at that moment, Xia Yingda received a transmission in his sea of consciousness. Xia Yingqiu, be careful. This transmission was from Xia Dong. Xia Yingda glanced at Xia Yingqiu vaguely before replying. You're right. Great-grandfather, Yingqiu. It's hard to say, but his behavior is very strange. You should have sensed it. Xia Yingda was indifferent. He truly didn't understand Yingqiu's recent behavior. For example, his irresponsible behavior just now shouldn't have appeared on him. There was also the dragon god's judgment. Perhaps he'd left Xia Yingqiu behind after everyone else had left. Yingqiu should have been the one to notify the other clansmen, but now it fell to him. Could it be? No matter what he's up to, we should focus on the Four Beast formation. As for Yingqiu's problem, we'll just deal with it as it comes. All right. Xia Yingda nodded at Xia Dong, then lowered his head and poured the power of his bloodline into the illusory sacred ancestor. However, no one noticed that Xia Yingqiu's gaze had suddenly turned sinister. I thought I wouldn't need to do anything now that Kiki had escaped the formation. I never would have guessed that old bastard actually had the bloodline of a true dragon. Xia Yingqiu snorted sinisterly as he poured the power of his bloodline into the illusory sacred ancestor. He glanced at the surrounding sacred beast clansmen. Practically all of them were pouring their bloodline power into the Four Beast formation. Xia Yingqiu looked around cautiously to confirm that no one was paying attention to him. Are you done recovering? A strand of spiritual sense transmitted from his sea of consciousness. Before long, Gu Li, who'd been sitting cross-legged in Dragon City, frowned. Then he rose to his feet. Stay alert, roared the people of Dragon City, only to see Gu Li pursing his lips into a faint smile. At that moment, The demon sovereigns and zombie progenitors rose to their feet. Almost as soon as they did, the experts of the dragon race took the initiative to meet them. They looked at each other from afar. Get ready. Let's go. A cold smile tugged at Gu Li's lips. Just as the experts of Dragon City were on high alert, die! An arrogant roar resounded from behind them. When they turned around, they saw that Xia Yingqiu's hand was stuck in the chest of a dragon race clansman. His hand was tightly gripping the man's heart. Cough! The other dragon race clansman coughed up mouthfuls of blood. Xia Yingda stared at his little brother in disbelief. Yingqiu, you should be thanking me. Out of consideration for our many years of brotherhood, I didn't kill you. Xia Yingqiu's face twisted into a sinister grin. Then he crushed the dragon clansman's heart, golden blood dripping from his hand. That's great. I like to see where you're going to find clansmen with the bloodline of a golden dragon. The experts above Dragon City were also somewhat dumbfounded. Xia Yingda even cried out in pain. Why? Who knows? Xia Yingqiu shrugged at Xia Yingda, then calmly walked out of the four-beast formation. He looked contemptuously at the experts of Dragon City, as well as the heavily injured Sacred Beast clansmen who'd coughed up blood. Good luck. A golden dragon roared and soared into the sky, then landed by Gu Li's side. When he saw Xia Yingqiu walk into the demon camp, Xia Yingda roared, his eyes bloodshot. Chapter 1000. Qualifications. Welcome, welcome. When he saw Xia Yingqiu, Gu Li opened his arms as if to hug him. However, Xia Yingqiu ignored his warm welcome. Huh. Xia Yingqiu smiled sheepishly and lowered his arms. I fulfill my promise. You must fulfill yours as well. Of course, I can guarantee that the dragon race will still stand tall in the beast region. You will still be one of the strongest clans in the beast region in the future. Gu Li smiled calmly. He looked at Xia Yingqiu with a gaze that seemed most trustworthy. You're right, he replied confidently. He clenched his fists, then turned his gaze back to Dragon City. Xia Yingqiu, you traitor. Xia Yingda roared for a long time. When he heard this, Xia Yingqiu couldn't help but lower his head, an apologetic look in his eyes. Don't blame me. I'm doing this for the sake of the clan. Yes, everything Xia Yingqiu did was for the sake of the dragon race. Half a year ago, Gu Li had sought him out. At the time, he'd flatly refused their invitation. That was until the god race expert behind Gu Li appeared. He'd submitted. In the face of absolute power, in the face of the trembling in the depths of his soul. He couldn't answer with certainty. I refuse. He couldn't. However, his heart still stood with the dragon race. Everything he did was for the sake of the dragon race's future. It was just that the path he chose was one the world couldn't accept. But the way he saw it, it was the right path. Xia Yingqiu. Xia Yingda appeared in front of Dragon City's gates. Their former brothers stared into each other's eyes. Xia Yingqiu could see his older brother's fury. He didn't dare look him in the eye, but his conscience was clear. Your brother is furious. Aren't you two on good terms? Didn't you tell him about our agreement? Asked Gu Li, still picking his ear. Xia Yingqiu simply turned his head back silently. There's nothing to tell him. Even if I did, given his personality, there's no way he'd approve of my actions. The dragon race must survive. As for the infamy, I'll do it for you. Tisich, you really are loyal, laughed Gu Li. But you must remember the agreement between us. A sinister aura instantly locked on Gu Li. Xia Yingqiu glared at him sinisterly. If you're lying to me, I won't let you off even if I die. Logically speaking, Gu Li could completely disregard such threats. In the beast region, Xia Yingqiu might be a peak-level expert, but in Gu Li's eyes, he was nothing. Moreover, he had already achieved his goal. There is no need for him to care about this fellow who was just a wastrel. However, he liked to put on an act until the end. Moreover, if he really went back on his word now, it might cause unnecessary trouble. Gu Li's eyes gleamed as he replied with a smile. You don't have to worry about that. Your dragon clan will definitely survive. If I'm really the kind of person who goes back on his word, there's no need for me to continue acting with you. Is there? Xia Yingqiu snorted noncommittally. He thought so too. The other party's goal had been achieved, and with his means, there was no way for him to truly threaten any of them. If he wanted to go back on his word, he could do so right now. There was no need to keep up the act. Of course, he couldn't rule out Gu Li's bad taste. All he could do now was gamble. However, he might be disappointed. Gu Li really was that kind of person. You might be in danger if you stay here. Hurry up and leave. Once everything's over, you'll return to your clan in glory. When the time comes, your clansmen will be grateful for your decision. Remember our agreement. With that, Xia Yingqiu transformed into a golden dragon and left Dragon City. Only now did Gu Li's face light up with disdain. He was truly stupid. Xia Yingqiu, don't even think of running, you traitor. Xia Yingda instantly transformed into a roaring golden dragon. However, just as he flew over Gu Li's head, a pair of huge hands slapped him down. Thud! One foot landed on Gu Li's body. Then he heard Gu Li laugh playfully. Brother Yingqiu is one of us now. He's finished his mission and is resting. Don't disturb him. Demon race scum. The 100-meter-long Xia Yingda couldn't break free from Gu Li's foot. All he could do was glare at Gu Li and roar. The winner takes all. You used to be the victors, so you naturally thought of yourselves as righteous. But after this battle, when we emerge as the victors 1,000 years from now, your righteousness will cease to exist. When that happens, it might even be us demons, full of benevolence and morality, who will criticize you from the highest vantage point. Oh, I'm sorry, but I don't think we'll have a chance to criticize you. After this battle, you'll all die. He flipped his right hand, and a golden rope fell onto Xia Yingda's body. In an instant, the golden rope bound him tightly. Brother Yingda, the people of Dragon City clenched their fists and roared. Then they heard someone from the dragon race gnash his teeth. I never would have guessed that Xia Yingqiu was the true traitor. You dragon race people are really something. Your clansmen are the best, but you're the ones with the most problems. The black tortoise who'd set up the 4 beast formation snorted angrily. When the dragon race heard this, they had no way to retort. We can't even set up the 4 beast formation now. It really isn't worth it for our clansmen. They risked their lives to buy us time. Stop arguing. At that moment, someone shouted from the crowd. Before long, they saw Li Jia, followed by countless human experts. If you have time to argue, why don't you think about how to deal with the aftermath? Where'd this little girl come from? It's not your place to speak, snorted someone from the beast region. Then he felt a chill on his neck. Go Yuzhan, with his hair on his head and an apple in his hand, had pressed his staff against the man's neck. You said Big Sister Jia doesn't have the right? Crash. Instantly, quite a few sacred beast region experts furrowed their brows. But a moment later, weapons pressed against their necks and chests. Obviously, the humans and the beast region had split into 2 camps. As for why the human experts obeyed Li Jia, it was because her master had given them their lives. There were quite a few neutral experts who wanted to play peacemaker, but when they sensed the murderous auras on both sides, they backed down. At that moment, Li Jia smiled indifferently. She waved her hand, and the group of human experts put away their weapons. Then, she turned to the people of the beast region. Chapter 1001. The 3 Yao emperors. The situation was already dire, but the people of the beast region were still arguing with each other and pushing the blame onto others. They talked about benevolence, righteousness, and morality, but in their hearts, they only cared about immediate benefits. Was this necessary? At the very least, Li Jia believed it was pointless. She really did hate them. They'd only talk to you on the same level if you demonstrated your power. In short, she had a bad impression of certain clans in the beast region. Or rather, they were extremely bad. But no matter how bad her impression of them was, she still needed them to stand on her side. She didn't want to give up, even if she was at the end of her rope. When they saw the humans put away their weapons, the people of the beast region sighed in relief. Just now, Li Jia's forces had exploded with power no weaker than theirs. Then what do you think, Your Excellency? After witnessing Li Jia's methods, the troublesome beast region clansmen snorted enigmatically. Do you really think we can turn the situation around with just our forces? Previously, even the experts of the peak-level clans could only pin their hopes on the 4 beast formation. Now, with just us. So you're saying we're just going to sit here and wait to be captured? Sometimes a person matured in an instant. The moment Hua Hai died, Li Jia had changed. Although she still seemed a bit immature in front of these old fogies, her words, actions, and mannerisms already had the bearing of a sect master. The Beast Region clansman rubbed his nose resentfully. Of course, he didn't dare let Li Jia slap that label on his head in front of so many people, but that was pretty much what he was thinking. Li Jia glanced coolly at the clansman, then turned to the other Beast Region clansman. This is the final battle. No matter the result, I'd rather die at their hands than sit here and wait to be captured by the demons. I'll never be a slave again. If you think the same way as me, take out your weapons. If you think the same way as those incompetent fools, then stay here and watch us die. Enjoy your futureless lives. With that, Li Jia walked out of Dragon City. Her words caused the elders of the 100 Flowers Gate to feel especially gratified. However, their gratification was quickly replaced by a faint sense of pity. If she was given enough opportunities, perhaps the 100 Flowers Gate would truly be able to continue its former glory. Sitting and waiting for death. No one would make such a choice. Even the people of the Beast Region who'd been speaking such depressing words tightened their grips on their weapons and followed Li Jia out of Dragon City. It could be said that the current situation was tragic. They might be going to their deaths, but dying on the battlefield was much better than being a slave. Looks like they're prepared to fight to the death. When he noticed the commotion above Dragon City, Gu Li's lips curved into a disdainful smile. Now, it could be said that he truly had nothing to fear. Su Yiyun, who had once made him feel threatened, had already used his soul to refine the formation. Now his soul had dispersed. Yi Zichen also died in the lightning tribulation. No. Gu Li's calm smile inexplicably froze. He instinctively looked back at the disk. The blue disk floating in the sky had already disappeared, but if Yi Zichen really did die, his imperial fate would be transferred to Jianchun. Why didn't he sense any imperial fate blessing him? As he considered this, Gu Li's expression grew solemn. However, he had no time to think too much. Black Dragon had already joined them. Your Excellency, Black Dragon. The remaining demons in the twin 8-level formations bowed to him. It wasn't just them. The zombie progenitors bowed respectfully as well. They had no choice. Even Jianchun, who devoured Ingo's soul, felt immense pressure when facing Black Dragon. On the battlefield, Black Dragon was the only one he feared. In order to avoid angering him, it was best to be cautious. Gu Li's expression was solemn. He gathered his thoughts and bowed to Black Dragon with a smile. Your Excellency, Black Dragon, you've returned. Have you dealt with everything on your side? How long will it take to deal with them? Black Dragon snorted arrogantly. He looked over to where he'd fought the Beast Region experts and saw them all lying on the ground in a disorderly manner. Even the White Emperor of the Tingo clan had a gaping hole in his chest. He sat motionless on the ground. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. When he saw White Emperor's miserable state, Gu Li couldn't help but arch his brows. In truth, he sort of hoped that White Emperor would finish off Black Dragon. That way, he'd be in less danger. But then he thought about it. If White Emperor finished off Black Dragon, wouldn't he die even faster? For the sake of his life, all he could do now was pretend to be pitiful. Your Excellency, you're absolutely right. Given your current strength, unifying the 3 realms is no problem at all. Not to mention these Beast Region barbarians. All right, don't flatter me here. In terms of tactics, Gu Li, you're the one with the most. If you hadn't planted people in the dragon race's ranks, their 4 beast formation might already be complete. No matter how powerful I am, I can't do anything to them. Black Dragon smiled calmly, then patted Gu Li on the shoulder. I should be the one thanking you for that. It's my duty, said Gu Li humbly. Gu Li humbled himself. To put it bluntly, his life was now in Black Dragon's hands. Don't be fooled by Black Dragon's smile. No one could say for certain whether or not he'd immediately turn hostile. Humbling himself and being cautious was absolutely no problem. Your Excellency, look, the Beast Region's people are ready to fight us to the death. We fight us to the death? Gu Li, That's not a good word, snorted Black Dragon, narrowing his eyes. Do they really think they're worthy? Before he'd even finished speaking, he waved his right hand. A purplish-black ball of light containing enough power to destroy heaven and earth flew towards Dragon City. Let's go. The beast region is finished. Such contempt and disdain. Black Dragon didn't even have the slightest bit of respect for the survivors of the beast region and humans who'd already cast aside their own lives. One casual attack from him was enough to determine their fates. The instant the ball of light appeared, the beast region and humans felt powerless to resist. However, at that moment, a triangular mirror suddenly appeared in front of the dragon's gate. When the ball of light touched the surface of the mirror, it was directly reflected by the mirror. Black Dragon, who'd already turned around and was about to leave, frowned. At the same time, he looked back and produced a purple ball of light, just like the first one. Annihilation. When the two balls of light collided, space shattered. Black Dragon looked back at the mirror and snorted. Chapter 1002. Go all out. The three Yao Emperors of the Half-Beast race. Due to the Half-Beastmen's special traits, the beast region had always ostracized them. They could only reluctantly settle in a tiny patch of land near Mount Biluo. Even though it was only a bronze mirror, Black Dragon was certain of this. They'd definitely come. However, what surprised him was that the Half-Beastmen's relationship with the beast region wasn't particularly harmonious. If he had to put it bluntly, the demons and Half-Beastmen had both been expelled from the beast region. It seemed they were in the same boat. The three Yao Emperors. As soon as Black Dragon said this, the people of the beast region stared blankly. What are they doing here? Although the bronze mirror had saved their lives, the people of the beast region didn't appreciate it at all. Instead, their gazes were filled with disdain. They think they're worthy of being called the Yao clan? They're a disgrace to the Yao race. Some people in the crowd didn't even bother to hide their curses. Li Jia couldn't help but knit her brows. Just now, Black Dragon's people had saved them. Why were the people of the beast region speaking so violently? Third Elder, do the three Yao Emperors have any grudges with the beast region? The puzzled Li Jia could not help but ask the elder beside her. This elder had been by Hua Hai's side ever since he had first established his sect. In the three realms, he could be considered a senior. She might be able to obtain some useful information from him. As expected, Li Jia wasn't disappointed. The elder really did tell her the whole story. The three Yao Emperors are actually the three emperors of the Half-Beastmen. It's just that their identities are somewhat special. They're not Yao, but they're not humans either. They're a combination of human and Yao. Is there a problem with that? Young sect master, you might not know this, but in truth, intermarriage between Yao and humans is a huge taboo in the beast region. If they give birth to children, it's even more difficult for the Yao to accept. Yao are very old-fashioned. They can only reproduce within their own clans. They can't even admit to interbreeding. But the Empress of the Nine-Tailed Fox clan is in love with the spirit ape Yuan Hong. Aren't her sisters Su Lu, and the dragon Xia, Kiki, both close to Yizichin? Why is it that they can be together, but not the people of the beast region? Li Jia frowned deeply, but the old man just smiled. The Nine-Tailed Fox clan and the Dragon clan are both peak clans. Even if they want to slander us, they need to at least have the guts to do so. The Spirit Ape clan also has great Sage Sun to intimidate the other demons. Who would dare to say anything? Li Jia nodded in understanding. To put it simply, the people of the beast region bullied the weak and feared the strong. Most of the half-beastmen they chased out belonged to the weaker races. Actually, intermarriage between humans and Yao has already been gradually accepted by the beast region, said Yizichin. It was at this point that the old man spoke up again. The only ones who followed the rule that humans and demons couldn't intermarry were the old-timers of old. As a result, the beast region's resistance to the half-beastmen gradually subsided. However, they still view the three Yao Emperors with such enmity. You could say that the three Yao Emperors are their scars. What do you mean? From the beast region's point of view, only Yao and Yao can intermarry and give birth to children with pure bloodlines. As a result, many demon clans even allowed siblings to marry each other. However, they never would have guessed that not only did the half-beastmen they chased out not perish on their own, they even gave birth to the 3 Yao Emperors. The 3 Yao Emperors were born from intermarriage between humans and ordinary clans. Their departure was accompanied by curses and expulsions from the Beast region. But even though the entire Beast region didn't notice, they broke through to Immortal King before anyone else. After breaking through, they even called themselves Yao Emperors. As she spoke, the old man's eyes flashed with mockery and mockery. Think about it. To the Beast region, isn't this a slap in the face? As a result, the 3 Yao Emperors bore a grudge against the entire Beast region. But if you ask me, the Beast region brought this upon themselves. As she spoke, the old man's tone changed slightly. Li Jiai could sense the resentment she felt towards the Beast region. At that moment, Li Jiai suddenly recalled her conversation with Hua Hai. At the time, she'd teased Hua Hai about how he and the third elder had lived their entire lives alone. She wondered if there was something fishy going on between the two of them. Hua Hai merely laughed and knocked her on the head. He'd replied that he had no choice but to marry. The third elder hadn't married because she'd fallen in love with a Yao clansman. It seems the Beast region forcibly separated the third elder and her lover. Li Jiai sighed inwardly. The Beast region's curses rang out incessantly. At that moment, the copper mirror in the sky transformed into 2 men and 1 woman. When they saw them, the Beast region's curses grew even more vicious. When the woman heard this, she furrowed her brows. She wanted to attack, but the person next to her pulled her back and shook his head. So it really is you? Did you hear that? The Beast region doesn't feel the slightest bit grateful for saving their lives. Think about your circumstances back then. Half-beast men and demons are somewhat similar. I've never even considered plundering your territory. Why did you have to get involved? When he saw the 3 Yao Emperors appear, Black Dragon couldn't help but rub his forehead and sigh. In truth, he really didn't want to fight them. It wasn't that he was afraid of them, but rather that their combination technique was truly a headache. Since Your Excellency Black Dragon isn't interested in the half-beastman's territory, I must thank Your Excellency on behalf of all of us. A handsome man in blue robes with antlers on his head cupped his hands and smiled. Although he looked young, he was actually much older than most of the people present. The Deer Emperor was one of the 3 emperors of the half-beast men. He'd broken through to the Immortal King level in 10,000 years and was now a peak Immortal King. He was only a step away from ascending to godhood. Forget about thanking me. If you 3 Yao Emperors could leave, I would be eternally grateful, said Black Dragon, cupping his hands respectfully. I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint you. The Deer Emperor let out a disappointed sigh. In truth, we 3 siblings don't want to get involved either. Whether the Beast region lives or dies has nothing to do with us. His childhood experiences made it impossible for him not to hate the Beast region. He could still vaguely remember how he and his mother had been expelled by the Beast region. If he hated them that much, he wouldn't have deliberately left Mount Biliuo to face his tribulation when he broke through to the Immortal King level. He'd done all of this to make the Beast region regret their actions. The other 2 felt the same way. The way they saw it, the Beast region's survival didn't have much to do with them. They couldn't be bothered to care either. Then everyone... Black Dragon arched his brows. We don't care about the Beast region's survival, but we owe little friend Yi. No, I should call him Emperor Yi now. We owe him a favor. There's nothing we can do about it. We have to repay him. The Deer Emperor shrugged helplessly. In response, Black Dragon smiled calmly. So you're saying that the 3 emperors are determined to make me your enemy? I don't want to be your enemy, but I have no choice but to repay a favor. The Deer Emperor sighed and shook his head repeatedly, a faint smile on his face.